Chris Iannetta, the catcher, all changes from game number 1, as is Jonathan Herrera at second base. But Tulo's been the big guy, 8 for 12, 3 home runs, 1 in each game of the series, and providing the winning margin in all 3 games. Jim Tracy had some anxious moments in that 9th inning in game number 1 as the Rockies change uniforms. Why would you change uniforms after you just won?
1-3 in that uniform, in fact.
Well, I guess they were dirty.
A little smelly, Terry. Well, Chris Capuano on the mound for the Mets. His big season was in 2005 before all the injuries, when he won 18 ball games for the Milwaukee Brewers and made the All-Star team his last year. His first start was a lot of good, a little bit of bad with a couple of home runs, but he had 24 swings and misses, which is the most of any Met pitcher so far in the season in that first start. Excellent changeup, good fastball, cutter, and curveball. There's Alexis Mets defense. Hairston moves from right field to left field. Pagan in center. Carlos Beltran, who got a big hit in the 9th inning of the game at 12 o'clock, now playing in right field. Right Reyes Emus gets to start at second base, like Davis back at first. And Mike Nikias against the left-hander De La Rosas gets to start behind the plate.
Well, Terry Collins had to like the fight in game 1, if not the result. It was nice to see Scott Hairston hit that home run in the 9th inning, especially after the play that he made in right field earlier in the game that cost the Mets a couple of runs. That was very redemptive for him.
Yeah, and it's a good sign here that the Mets are playing hard for 27 outs. They're just coming up a little short. David Wright's ball could have went out, and I think it's probably frustrating for this coaching staff that sees their players on point, but just missing just by a little bit, whether it's defensively or getting that big hit.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most troubling piece of that first game was the outfield defense, because all 3 outfielders struggled at times out there, and with a little better outfield play, the Mets have a much better chance to win that game.
When you're in a streak where they are now, they've lost 6 out of their last 7.
7 of 8.
7 of 8, in fact. When you're going through those streaks, you can't make any mistakes, and I think the Mets, the ball club that they have, they got to play, as close to not perfection, but make the plays that should be made.
Now, Capuano gave up 4 runs in his first start, and they came on 2 swings of the bat. A 3-run homer by Danny Espinosa, and then a home run by Ian Desmond. But stuck around on the right day long enough to earn the victory.
Well, you know what happens on these doubleheaders here is they're trying to rush these second games a half hour after the first game. It's almost impossible. And when I played, it was always 40 minutes, because you need at least 30 minutes for the starting pitcher to run, get his legs ready, do his long toss, and finally go in the bullpen. So this game, hard to start in a half hour.
You know what you need?
What?
Banner day.
You can start in 4 hours.
Dexter Fowler leads things off, and Capuano's first pitch is low for ball 1. Fowler 3 for 10 in this series after going 2 for 5 in the opener of the doubleheader today. He's at .267 for the year. And Capuano gets a strike on the outside edge, 1-1. You got a little different home plate umpire in game number 2, Jim Joyce, who might have a more generous strike zone.
He's a more aggressive strike caller, absolutely.
Good changeup by Capuano, and it's 1-2. Dexter Fowler, a switch hitter. And he takes it in the dirt, 2-2. Jonathan Herrera on deck, and then Carlos Gonzalez for the Rockies in the first inning. That's got 6 1/3 out of R.A. Dickey in the opener. Bobby Parnell gave up a home run, but the rest of the bullpen just about spotless in game 1 as Fowler hooks one out to left center, and over goes Pagan to grab it, and Fowler is the first out of the game. We were so thrilled to find that between games there was a huge spread available to us from Mamas of Corona, which I'm telling you, their food is just outrageously good.
It's so good, and they sent it up here with the peppers and the gravy and the mushrooms, and I had myself a half a turkey and mozzarella, which I won't get anywhere else because it's just too good at Mama's.
It is unbelievable. And I threw all the peppers and the mushrooms all on the sandwich and try not to get it on my tie. Jonathan Herrera takes low and away, 1-1. One thing about doubleheaders, they're very messy.
I know you're the kind of guy who likes the things in their place and don't get on your scorebook and scorecard.
Well, so far so good.
Okay, good.
I haven't spilled any gravy yet.
Well, if I see you after the game and you're in a bad mood, I know that gravy was spilled at some point.
Herrera didn't play in the first game today. 4 for 8 in this series. He's been a real spark plug for the Rockies early on this year. And he takes up and away 2-2. Herrera, another switch hitter at the top of that Colorado batting order with Carlos Gonzalez on deck. Gonzalez had been held in check for most of this series until he hit one off his ankles for a 2-run homer off Dickey in the first game today. Three-2 from Capuano, and Herrera lifts one to center field. Another chance for Angel Pagan with the sun glinting off the glasses, and there are 2 out. So 2 out and nobody on. And here comes Gonzalez, who, as I mentioned, the Mets have done pretty well against in this series. He's just 2 out of 14.
You know, if you are Chris Capuano, you've been watching this series so far, you're getting a tendency, at least within this series, of how to get these guys out. Low and in is a place you have to stay away from with Carlos Gonzalez. So that really takes away your sinker down and in, maybe your changeup down and in. And we saw him vulnerable to breaking pitches. So that would be where, if I were Chris Capuano, I would try to concentrate against Gonzalez. And this is really the only ball that R.A. Dickey threw down and in to Gonzalez all day long, and he did not miss it.
By the way, that's the best defensive play of the game. that was an ungodly catch by the fan. 1-1 to Gonzalez. The home run was Carlos Gonzalez's first of the year as Tulowitzki stands on deck, and that came as a surprise to the Rockies. They thought that Gonzalez would get off to a big power start because he put on about 15 to 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason, looking to beef up his power game.
Well, I think that he's always had such an athletic swing. To get thicker and maybe have not be as quick inside would be a bad idea, but sometimes you put that weight on, it'll keep you stronger for the entire season.
Now Capuano behind him 3-1. Well, Capuano used his slider to effect against the lefties in his first start. Lefties are just 1 for 7 against him so far. But he's behind here 3-1. There's a fastball for a strike. 3-2.
Boy, early in this season, I have never seen so many fastballs on 3-1 taken by hitters. That ball was right down the middle.
Carlos Gonzalez was ready to go to first base. And on 3-2, the slider gets him. Nicky slaps on the tag, and Capuano has his first strikeout in a 1-2-3 opening inning. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the first when we come back. Mets starting lineup for game number 2. Angel Pagan moves into the 2-hole with Daniel Murphy sitting this one out in favor of Brad Emus. Mike Nickias gets a start behind the plate. Carlos Beltran, who pinch hit in game 1, gets the start in game number 2 against the very talented left-hander Jorge De La Rosa.
Who won 16 games a couple of years ago, 50-47 in his career, ERA almost 5. Has been with 3 big league ball clubs. Started in Milwaukee, went to Kansas City, and now in Colorado. And I guess you'd have to call him kind of a late bloomer, wouldn't you?
Well, he didn't find himself till he came to Colorado, and the biggest issue for De La Rosa the last season and a half has been his left middle finger. First, he had a torn tendon in that finger that cost him half a year last year. Now he's had blister problems over his first couple of starts of the season on that same finger. So we'll keep an eye on that today. Reyes homered in game 1. That was the beginning of the Mets comeback. They were down 6-2. Reyes homered in the 8th to make it 6-3 before Hairston's 2-run shot in the 9th got them within a run. It was Reyes' first of the year, and he hit it off the Pepsi porch in right field. Now has an 11-game hitting streak. And he bluffs the bunt and takes a strike, and he's been doing that once in at bat, especially in the first inning.
Well, the key for Jose, he gets it, is he wants that infield to come in. Pagan on deck now. Wants them to come in just a step, allows him a chance to rush that ball by him.
Lifted out to right field, and Ryan Spilborghs is there. And Reyes retired, one away.
Well, here's the Coors Light Rockies defense. Gonzalez, Fowler played in game 1. Spilborghs gets a start in game 2. Wigginton at third base gets a start. Tulowitzki, Herrera, Helton at first base, the veteran, and Iannetta, their #1 catcher, starting game 2.
Here's Pagan, who was 0 for 3 in the opener today, but drove in a run with a sacrifice fly. 3 for 9 in this series. And still looking for his first hit this year as a right-hand batter. Mets have had only 2 prior games in which a lefty started against them, and interestingly enough, they won them both. De La Rosa's got that real hesitation in his windup.
Very mechanical kind of mechanics where he kind of turns to the side, stalls, and then lifts his leg. Watch, he'll turn to the side, he'll stall it right here, and then lift his leg straight up as he tries to keep that front side closed. Very difficult thing, I would say, to be able to copy over and over.
One and 2 to Pagan, who starts this game hitting at .205. Well, the signs have certainly been encouraging for Angel over the last couple of days, as David Wright stands on deck. And a good breaking ball in for a call third strike. And Pagan down looking for the second out.
Boy, that's almost unhittable. Starts off the plate away and curves right down and in an inside corner. That's about as big a breaking ball as you're going to see.
Well, that's that collection of stuff that's enabled De La Rosa to average right around a strikeout per inning since he's gotten to Colorado. So here's David. 1 for 5 in the opener today, and then had that good time at bat to give the Mets a chance. Made the last out of the game on a long fly to right field with the bases loaded after working it to 3-2 against Matt Lindstrom. And it's taken high, ball 1. You can't ask for a whole lot more than what David did.
No, he worked the count into his favor, got a pitch to hit, drove it to right field, and the longest part of the park got him.
Two and 0 to David.
I think David thought he got it at that point.
I'm not sure Seth Smith knew either whether that ball was going to hit the overhang. It's hard to tell, as we mentioned during the opening of the first game. That overhang is about 8 feet over the playing field. Now, he caught the ball less than 8 feet from the wall, but of course the ball's coming down at an angle.
That's right.
So it's hard to know exactly how close it might have come. But it's been very rare in the 3 years that Citi Field has been open to see an outfielder catch a ball where Seth Smith caught that ball. Because with the indentation of the wall, most of the time a ball that would land where he caught it would strike the overhang.
Yes.
Now De La Rosa behind 3-1. And Wright takes it wide, ball 4, and the Mets have the first base runner of the game, a 2-out walk to Wright.
You know, more than anything, it might have been the situation that cost David there. 2 outs, do or die. There's no way that Smith can play that off the wall because the Mets are going to score the winning run. All the runners are going. So he had to play it that way, back up as far as he can go, and try to make the catch.
Unlike the way Hairston played the ball earlier in the game, he was a little bit unsure of how much depth he had there and was preparing to play a ball potentially off the wall that turned out he could have caught. Here's Beltran, who had a pinch hit single in that 9th inning rally, and he takes ball 1. Beltran 4 for 9 in this series, has 2 home runs this year. They both came as a right-hand batter in consecutive at bats on this homestand. Wright takes off. Beltran watches low, and David steals it standing up. Got a huge jump on De La Rosa for his 2nd stolen base of the year.
Well, De La Rosa not paying any attention with that high leg kick. If you guess right like David did, easy stolen base.
So a runner in scoring position for Beltran on a 2-0 count. Bouncing ball, Ty Wigginton at the bag. Makes the throw in the dirt, but scooped out by Helton. And the side retired. Let's leave a runner in scoring position. We go to the 2nd, no score. At Citi Field in BJ's Clubhouse. Tickets start at $10 for kids and $20 for adults, plus Mr. Met visits every game. Call 718-507-TIXX or visit Mets.com now. 2nd inning, and man again, Troy Tulowitzki leads off and takes inside ball 1. Tulowitzki in this series, 8 hits and 12 at bats. He's homered in all 3 games and driven in 8 runs. And for a guy who normally gets off to slow starts, he's not off to a slow start. And Capuano working him inside 2-0.
Well, it's interesting that Capuano has learned from the first 3 games that you're going to have to try to pitch Tulowitzki in, get him off the plate, but he's not been able to throw a strike. So now danger zone is going to have to go back outside.
2-0 changeup to get a strike.
That's the key right now, is that anything that's a standard, as Ty Wigginton waits on deck, you know, the fastball away, the rolling over curveball, Tulowitzki's going to handle it right now. You're going to have to really keep the ball down in the strike zone.
And Capuano gets even 2-2. And Tulowitzki grounds one out to shortstop. And Reyes guns down his opposite number. One away. So a rare time that Tulowitzki is retired in this series. One out in the second. Now Ty Wigginton. Wigginton pinch hit in the first game today. He's gone 0 for 5 in this series. And he takes ball one. Former Met Wigginton now with his 6th different major league team. Started at first base in the opener of the series, playing third base today. Todd Helton on deck as the Rockies bat in the second. Hammered down to third, and David Wright makes a nice pick. Throws out his predecessor. 2 out.
Little side saddle by David. Catches it right on his left hip. Easy play to first base.
So Capuano's retired the first 5. And now he'll take on Todd Helton with 2 out and nobody on. Helton 2 for 6 in this series, hitting at .292. And he takes a strike on the outside edge.
See David here, do or die in between. And in today's game, with the big gloves that the third basemen use, that has become the kind of the technique of just flapping that big glove out there and hope it finds some leather.
So the Mercedes-Benz Ultra Mode, brought to you by your tri-state dealers, on the web at searchmercedes.com. Capuano pounding the strike zone against Helton to get ahead. Helton hasn't had much luck against Capuano, just 5 for 23 against him lifetime. And Helton, who has not given up much against lefties his entire career, for him to be hitting .217 against you, he must be doing a pretty good job. Todd Helton, now 37 years old, has had himself a tremendous career. We outlined some of the numbers last night in the comparison with Hall of Famers in terms of his career batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, but don't forget about the defense. Helton has always been a terrific defensive first baseman. Chris Capuano, 32 years old, from Springfield, Mass. Ryan Spilborg's on deck. 2-2 to Helton, and he just gets a piece. There is some of the company that Helton sits with.
Wow.
315, 25 homers, 95 RBIs, 7 straight years, and the only guy to do it in his first 7. Lined into right field, and Helton's got himself a 2-out hit. So there's the first base runner for the Rockies in game 2.
Interesting enough, though, when I think of Todd Helton in his great career, he got that huge contract, long-term contract. He signed through 2013, and that's the danger you run into when you leave those big contracts. I wonder if it'll be the same with Tulowitzki, who's much younger, of course, but still, 10 years is 10 years.
I think if you're going to give a guy 10 years, it's got to be a guy that you identify early enough that you're not going to take him much past 35.
Yeah.
Because, you know, with performance-enhancing drugs out of the game now, 35 is the new 40. Hit in the air to right field, and Beltran stands his ground and puts it away to end the inning. So Helton with a 2-out hit is stranded at first. Good start for Capuano. No score. Beningo will have a recap of today's Mets-Rockies doubleheader, plus bring you a preview of tomorrow's series opener in Atlanta on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, part of the New York Sports Local, tomorrow at 5 on SNY. Ike Davis leads off the home second against the left-hander Jorge De La Rosa. Ike is 2 for 10 in this series. And takes that curveball up and in for ball 1. Ike has got RBI-less 2 straight games. Imagine that. Became the first Met in history to drive in a run in 9 of the first 10 games of the season. Scott Hairston, who homered in the first game, is on deck, and Brad Emus behind him. Mets have scored first in each of their last 4 games, but lost all 4. Maybe they need to change the formula. Scoring first is supposed to be a good thing.
It's supposed to be a great thing.
By the way, the Mets have lost all 3 games of this series by 1 run. The last time that happened, that they lost 3 straight games by 1 run, was a memorable series in 2008 in San Diego. It was memorable because they lost all 3 games 2-1.
That's right.
It was the only time in Major League history that a team had lost 3 straight games all by the same score. And that's ball 4, and Davis is on with a leadoff walk. Second one given up by De La Rosa. So the Mets have a leadoff man on, and now Scott Hairston comes to the plate. Hairston drove in 3 runs in the first game today. 1 with a bloop single and 2 with his 9th inning home run, his first as a Met. Scott served notice very early in spring training that he was going to be a guy to be counted on for some power off the bench. Before the Mets began their exhibition schedule, they played an intra-squad game, and Hairston homered in each of his first 2 at-bats in the intra-squad game. That's setting a high standard. And if memory serves, didn't he also homer in the first exhibition game?
Yes, he did.
Sometimes you don't want to set the bar too high. He rockets this one to deep left field. Carlos Gonzalez goes back, and this ball is off the top. Is it out? No, it's in play. Ike stops at third. Hairston, who had gone into a home run trot, goes into second base. Well, we're probably going to get a review on this one. Terry Collins is racing out. That ball hit right near the orange line at the top of the fence. It has to go over the orange line to be a home run. And it looked like it hit on the line. That would be in play. Let's check it out a little closer on the Mercedes-Benz Ultramo.
Fans reaching out there with their hats. Doesn't touch it. Nope. Hits right on top of that yellow orange line.
So it's the right call, it appears. The third base umpire, the young umpire Corey Blazer, who was involved in that controversial play at first base in the first game, was the guy who went out there to call in play. That's him in the center of your screen facing toward us. And they're going to probably go off and review now. So we'll get our first video replay of the year in a game involving the Mets. There's the ball hitting right on the line.
No gold gloves out there with the hats.
Now, if either of those fans had touched the ball with the hat, that would have been a much tougher call for the umpires to try and determine whether it would have been a home run or not. But it appeared as though neither one touched it.
But I also think nice play by Corey Blazer, the umpire. When we go back, we will definitely see a nice hustle out of the third base umpire. Got out there, took a good look.
Well, that's one of 3 people involved who hustled, because Carlos Gonzalez gave up on that ball in left field, and Scott Hairston was in a home run trot. You got to learn in this ballpark, don't go into a home run trot.
That's right. No one has the power they think they do. This is where home runs go to die in this ballpark.
So Hairston, who had a home run in the opening game of the doubleheader, nearly had 1 in consecutive at bats. But most likely, unless our eyes fail us, we'll have to settle for a double in this spot, and the Mets will have second and third and nobody out.
The umpire, Mr. Blazer, at some point will get a call tonight as we see this play once again. The drive from Hairston. 2 hats out there.
Key is, did it touch either one of the hats?
Yeah, Well, I don't think you can determine that. It might have hit the one on the left.
Well, it looked like that hat turned a little bit, didn't it, as the ball came by? But I don't think that's enough evidence.
I don't think a hat is going to change the direction of the baseball.
Well, maybe just enough.
Just enough. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I don't think they can reverse the call.
I don't think they can either, based on that kind of visible evidence.
What'd you see, Todd? Well, I saw the ball. I think it stayed in. Terry.
Of course it does. Let's look at the Coors Light freeze cam. See the hat on the left, and as the ball comes by, the hat turns slightly. Maybe. But again,
maybes don't work.
Even if that's the case, I don't think that's enough for the umpires to determine that the ball would have gone over the fence had it not hit the hat. Let's check it out. Normal speed. So 3 umpires are inside looking at the video review. Here's Scott Hairston and his reaction. He thought for sure he had it. He's in his home run trot. Puts his head down. Whoops. Got to hustle a second.
Well, he's lucky, because if Gonzalez has decided to throw that ball at second base, he would have been out.
Yep. Report out today that Major League Baseball is leaning toward more video review, but because of the length of time that this takes,
yes,
I'm not sure anything other than boundary calls would be a great idea. Well, here come the umpires. Let's see what they say. No signal, so that'll tell you that they're not going to rule home run. So the call is upheld, and Terry Collins will continue to talk about it, which he's not supposed to do once they've made a video review determination. Jim Joyce is the acting crew chief. Darryl Cousins, the normal crew chief on this unit, umpired behind the plate in the first game and isn't out there for the second game.
Well, I will tell you, though, the way the Mets are going, Terry knows the rule that he's not supposed to argue this, but he might be picking a spot not only to try to back up his player, but maybe pick a spot to maybe go off on the umpires a little, let this team know that he's fired up. I don't know.
So Terry has heard from Jim Joyce the explanation on why the call was upheld. And again, this is the guy with the hat on the left. Perhaps the ball hit the hat before it hit the orange line. But again, there's really no way of determining whether had it not hit the hat, whether it would have gone over the line. So Hairston settles for a double, and the Mets have second and third and nobody out. 3 minutes and 19 seconds your review time, which is more than it's supposed to take.
I didn't know you had a review clock. Very good.
Because our statistician Dave Freed is meticulous about those things.
Well, he can't get the pitch count right. Might as well do something over there over the.
Well, he just doesn't want to be late to dinner.
Oh, okay.
So he keeps track of every minute that passes by.
I'm only kidding, Dave. One of the best. Lucky to have you.
He is. The infield back as Emis fouls off the off-speed pitch, and it's 0-2. Emis getting the second game start after Daniel Murphy started each of the last 3 games. Mike Nicky is on deck. Emis came off the bench to get a base hit last night. Also pinch hit in the first game today and struck out. It's been a rough go for Brad at the plate. Just 1 for his last 14. Emis started most of the games at second base the first week and a half. But as Murphy continues to show that he can handle the position defensively, that's going to split the playing time that much more. Little tapper in front of the plate. Davis will hold at third, and De La Rosa throws out Emis for the first out. Wise move by Davis, who would have been a dead duck at the plate. So 1 away, and now a real good chance for De La Rosa to get through the inning with the 8 and 9 hitters coming up.
Talking about how hard Major League Baseball can be sometimes. What was Greg Reynolds rewarded with after the win in the first game today?
That's right. The Rockies, between games of the doubleheader, sent Greg Reynolds back to the minors because they needed an extra arm, so they called up a right-hander, Alan Johnson, who was here and available for game 2. Nice to know you, kid. Good job getting the win. Here's Nikias with an RBI chance, and he takes a strike. The infield stays back for the Rockies with 1 out. Josh Toley caught the first game of the doubleheader. For Nikias, it's his 3rd start of the season. He's gone 1 for 8. His first appearance in this series. A ball and a strike. Capuano on deck is a pretty good hitter for a pitcher, but a little tougher for him against a left-hander like De La Rosa. Shadows starting to become an issue.
And play a part in left field also, especially down the line.
You got those broken shadows with the light towers and the shadow of the upper deck. Hit in the air to left field, chasing Gonzalez back. It's over his head. 1 hop against the wall. Davis comes in to score. Hairston right behind him. Nikias dives into second with a 2-run double. And the Mets take an early 2-0 lead. First 2 major league RBIs for Mike Nikias.
Nice sitting right here. A little change up left in the middle part of the plate, almost inside. A nice job of hitting by Nikias as he hustles out that double.
So the Mets cash a pair against De La Rosa. And now Capuano steps in. Chris is 1 for 2, hit a double in his first start. We saw him swing the bat during spring training. Not only can he hit the ball well to right, he hit one over the head of the left fielder in Vieira during spring training. Out of the way. So that's now 6 straight games that the Mets have scored first. It's up to that man to make it stand up.
See if he can be a better front runner for Capuano. You're right, though. He really has an idea up at the plate. Has a nice short stroke. Just tries to put the ball in play. Doesn't overswing.
It's very economical.
Well,
he was economical.
That's right.
Goes down swinging on the slider, and De La Rosa has his 2nd strikeout. So 2 out in the inning. Reyes will come to bat for the 2nd time. They say fly to right his first time up.
11-game hitting streak now for Reyes.
Nikias with a 2-run double. He's at second with 2 men down. And Reyes pops it up in foul ground. Helton coming over. And he has room. Side retired. But Mike Nikias picks up his first 2 big league RBIs. Drives home a pair to give the Mets a 2-0 lead. third inning, and you know, sometimes in a doubleheader you find a guy who's been wandering around the ballpark all day, and you need to give him safe haven.
Why, is Keith here?
I'm lost.
Hi, Kevin.
I found my way into the booth. I was roaming around so much I didn't know where else to stop.
The question is, did you get the great food from Mama's between games?
That was a quality spread. By the way, there's 75 more cups of gravy back there in case you need it.
Very good.
You can never have enough gravy.
You can never have enough gravy.
Chris Iannetta leading off the third inning. Iannetta 0 for 3 in this series, but with 5 walks and a hit by pitch. Iannetta hitting just 192, but his on base percentage has been outrageous. 447 coming into the game. That's a little out of whack. 2-1 to Iannetta. De La Rosa on deck, and then Fowler for the Rockies here in the third. Must be nice out in the sun today, huh?
Just a fantastic day. You know, retribution from starting the first day in Philly through this whole week.
Little flare out to shallow right field, and that's going to fall for a base hit. Iannetta took to turn at first and heads for second as Beltran bobbles it, and Iannetta has a bloop double. Beltran did not go hard after that ball at all.
Well, a little just clunker out to right field. And maybe he didn't think that Iannetta was going to go for 2, but in his haste to try to pick it up there, Iannetta with the hustle double.
Yeah, it's one of those right field plays. You know, if you're playing center field and that ball dunks in to the left or right of you, it's a single, but the ball falls along the line like that, you got to go. So De La Rosa, the pitcher, comes up. 2 for 4 at the plate this year. The Mets look for the bunt. And he bunts it foul. So, Kevin, you're down in that clubhouse more than anybody else, and you're there for all of Terry's pre and post game directives. As this team has lost 4 straight and 7 of 8, what have you detected? I mean, it's so early in the season, but we heard Terry's words last night. They were pretty direct and pretty he was pretty frustrated, let's put it that way. But what do you detect coming out of that clubhouse right now?
You know, I think clearly Terry was frustrated, but I think he also sensed a little bit, just for the first time, a little smidgen of defeat after the Tulowitzki home run off of Nice. And so I think he felt like, you know, every day after these losses, you know, with the exception of the Holiday loss, he's felt good about how they've played, the effort, you know, their hit away, their pitch away, and that's been, for the most part, relatively true. But he did not like the feel after the Tulowitzki hit, and, you know, the guys kind of backed that up, and they said he was right, you know, to make a statement and to call it out a little bit and bring it to their attention.
De La Rosa strikes out trying to bunt, and that's the first out of the inning. Well, I mean, you contrast what happened last night after the Tulowitzki home run with what happened today when the Mets did fight back in the last couple of innings, even though they fell short. And, you know, you wonder after a game in which the Mets played just horrendous outfield defense whether that's the takeaway from the first game or whether the fact that they put themselves in that hole is.
Yeah, you always wonder when, you know, that was such a strange game. I mean, it's been a strange series for outfield play. I mean, this, you know, guys losing balls in the lights. I mean, I didn't think today was particularly that much of a glary day. I was out in the outfield a lot. Obviously, I'm not playing, you know, center field, but it didn't seem like one of those true days where the sun is so tough you'd be losing balls out there. But, you know, I don't know. Is there a carryover with a game 25 minutes later? I'm not sure. Terry basically said between games, look, you know, with what I said last night, and I saw it today, I just want to make sure guys are keeping their spirits up and knowing how close they are. So I think his message got across, but the bottom line, though, even though it's early, I mean, they got to win some games. I mean, you know, being 1 pitch away and 1 hit away is only enough for so long. When you've lost 7 out of 8, it's starting to get serious now.
Well, that's why the Holiday game you can take in these long seasons. You know, that game was over with. Okay, no problem. But it's so frustrating that every game is 1-run game.
Fowler lines one out of left for a base hit. Iannetta to third is being waved home. The throw goes to second base. So Fowler with an RBI single gets the Rockies on the board, cutting the Met lead to 2-1. Dexter Fowler with his 4th run batted in of the season and his 2nd in this series. So Iannetta hustling that ball into a double pays off for Colorado.
Well, this breaking ball or changeup left in the middle of the plate, and that's kind of been this series. The Mets get on top, and then the Rockies come right back at them. Nice hitting by Fowler. He's a little better right-handed hitter.
So So now you have a potential base stealer at first, although runners don't take a whole lot of liberties against Chris Capuano. Capuano, among active pitchers who've thrown at least 750 innings, has allowed by far the fewest stolen bases in that group. Only 14 steals against him in his career. The next lowest total among pitchers with 750 or more innings is 33 by Adam Wainwright. So he is very tough to run against. Had as many as 12 pickoffs in a season back in 08.
You can make the argument with the retirement of Andy Pettit's the best move, active move in baseball from the left side.
Jonathan Herrera, the batter, takes it wide. So the Mets have two left-handed starters who effectively negate the running game. You have Neese, who's now gone, what, 37 starts without giving up a stolen base? And then Capuano.
But the rest of the staff has struggled. No one's been thrown out, what, in 14 attempts so far against Mets catchers.
You know, Herrera's an interesting guy. I was asking Jim Tracy. I mean, obviously, guys, we haven't seen him on too large of a sample size, but, you know, he seems like an electric type player, speedy guy, takes good at bats. And I asked him, why not lead off? Well, why second? And he said, you know, he did this late last year, and early on this year he started to do this, and this is what I like about it. There were a lot of times, 2 outs, he's up, he would extend the inning and get on base and allow Carlos Gonzalez to hit.
Fowler runs. It's hit right to the vacated hole and into right field. Perfectly executed hit and run by Herrera. So there you go. First and third and 1 out.
And demonstrating it there a little bit. He just said, you know, it's so big. Instead of Gonzalez leading off an inning, to have him come up with a guy on, it changed a lot of innings for us last year, and that's why I leave him second. And here you see he works it for Jim.
Well, you know what's great about it is that Jim Tracy knows that the steal has been taken out of play against Capuano. So if I can't steal, what do I have to do? I have to start the runner and do, run and hit and run, do things that'll be more aggressive.
So a chance for Gonzalez with the tying run at third and 1 out. Gonzalez struck out his first time up, now 2 for 15 in this series. So whereas Tulowitzki has had an enormous impact, it's been a little different for Gonzalez.
Well, here's the pitch differential, and he got that ball in the air. He wanted to hit it in the ground, but it was even lower than the target.
And Gonzalez rips one. Emis with a great stop, but then bobbles in, and that costs them the double play as the tying run scored. Well, an absolute bullet off the bat of Gonzalez. Emis had it, lost it, got 1 out, but had he been able to hold on, he would have gotten 2.
Oh, still, just to get a glove on this and to keep it anywhere near where he can get an out. Fantastic play by Emis. Really just in defense, threw that arm up, that backhand up, and the ball went into that glove, and as he got up, that's when it fell out of the pocket.
So Fowler comes in to score as Herrera is erased. The Rockies with 2 home here in the third to get even. And now Tulowitzki, first pitch swinging, fouls it back.
I know this is probably not the case, but do Gonzalez and Tulowitzki hit every inning? Do they have a different kind of batting order than every big situation? Tulowitzki's up there.
This is a minor league game, right? Didn't you know we get the at bat every inning?
Right.
Same thing. You know, we talked a lot about Tulowitzki last inning, guys, when I was out in the stands, and just thinking, I don't have an answer. Maybe you do. I mean, are there, if you go around Major League Baseball, 2 stars that are as good offensively and defensively as these 2 guys?
Good point.
The runner goes. Nikias with the throw right on the money, and Gonzalez is out. No, now they say safe. He dropped the ball. The second base umpire Jim Wolf called him out. Half the Mets team is in the dugout. Mike Davis has to come on back.
Well, good pitch to throw on for Nikias, makes a proper throw, perfect throw, but it came into the runner just as Emis was trying to catch the baseball, and that shoulder, left shoulder of Gonzalez, jarred the ball loose.
So that's 2 balls that have unfortunately popped out of Brad Amis's glove in the last few moments. This one again keeps the inning alive.
The little things, the little plays. If you make that play, now you don't have to face Tulowitzki.
I think you'd have to walk him now, don't you? Given what's happened in this series so far. I mean, I asked the question last night almost facetiously before he hit the home run. But at this point, why would you even think about pitching to him?
Well, The only way that you could probably think of pitching to him is you got a veteran pitcher, Capuano, that you feel is going to try to pitch around him and maybe get Tulowitzki to get himself out. But that has not happened in the series.
Runner in scoring position with 2 down, a 1-1 count, and he works that one inside, 2-1.
But the way you counter this is Tulowitzki is not only a talented player, defensively and offensively, but a very intelligent player. So he knows what Capuano is going to do. He's going to sit on a breaking ball or a changeup if that's where Chris wants to go.
Now on 2-1, Tulowitzki takes a strike on the inside edge. And that's where Capuano's been concentrating. And now he's gotten to 2-2.
Ryan, do you think overall this year Mets pitchers have come inside enough?
No, I think they need to do it more. I think when you're a staff that's challenged to strike out people, you really have to pitch more inside than a staff that has guys who can throw the ball 95 miles an hour, because you have to get them off the plate so when you do make a mistake, you'll occasionally get away with it. You're not going to be perfect all the time.
2-2. Again, he comes inside but misses, and it's a full count.
You know, like Nice threw the cutter to Tulowitzki last night, tried to get him inside before the pitch that he hit out. But, you know, come inside enough. Was that pitch far enough inside? Obviously, he reached out and got that one.
Well, coming into today's play before the first game, Mets pitchers have given up 23 runs with 2 outs. That just means being a little tougher with 2 outs is going to save them a lot of these extra runs.
Now on 3-2, Tulowitzki takes ball 4, so he winds up with the walk. And Capuano will face Wigginton with 2 men on. Wigginton bounced to third his first time up, now 0 for 6 in this series, so a big out for Capuano to get here to try and stop the bleeding, with the Rockies having plated a couple of runs here in the third. Capuano up to 52 pitches working in the third inning, more than he'd like to see, with Gonzalez and Tulowitzki aboard. And it's taken down for ball 1. Got an answer to your question, Kevin. They're probably not as good defensively as this pair, but how about Maurer and Morneau?
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
About the only 2 that I can think of.
I didn't think of them, actually. That's a great call, Gary. I mean, obviously, you know, Maurer, he kind of gets overlooked defensively. I mean, he's so good offensively. People don't realize how good he is defensively.
And Morneau's not a Gold Glover, but he holds his own.
He's good.
How about A-Rod and Cano?
It's not bad. Or it's Sheriff for that matter.
Yes.
1-0
to Wigginton. And a fastball strike, 1-1.
Harder to judge when you don't see him a lot, right? I mean, obviously you're in New York, you get to see those guys a lot, but when you see clips and you read things, but when you get to see a series like this, you become even more impressed. I mean,
well, the thing about those two and this entire Rockies team is that at least for the early part of the year, they're doing it away from home, because so often what the Rockies do gets downgraded by the fact that they play in such a good hitter's ballpark. Oh, and Wigginton gets nailed to load the bases. So things get more dicey for Capuano. Now he'll have to face Todd Helton with the bases loaded. Second batter that he's hit this year. And Wigginton never rubs. He's as tough a dude as there is in this game, you know. He's still the last Met ever to run over a catcher, and he hasn't been a Met in 7 years.
He's laughing at first base after getting drilled. He's the kind of guy that if you drilled him, he'd pick up the ball and throw it back at you.
You love having Ty Wigginton on your team.
Yeah, I've heard
he was a great teammate, played every day, played hurt, never complained about anything, would play anywhere, would sit for a week if he had to. And he has forged himself quite a nice career. He's never been considered a star, never really been considered a starting player, and yet he plays all the time. So bases loaded now. Gonzalez at third, Tulowitzki at second, Wigginton at first. Helton, the 8th man up in the inning. He's singled to right his first time up. 2-2 game in the third. And he takes a letter high strike. 0-1. Helton at one time a feared power hitter. Slumped to 8 home runs last year. See what he's done with the bases loaded, including 5 grand slams. And that fastball sits high, 1-1. The inning began with Chris Iannetta blooping a double down the right field line, and then with one out, Dexter Fowler singled him home. A hit and run play. Herrera with a perfectly placed base hit. Gonzalez with the shot to Emis, who had it roll out of his glove, got a force as the tying run scored, and then a walk and a hit batsman. And now Helton drives one to left, but right there waiting for it is Hairston to end the inning. There's a big out for Chris Capuano as Helton lines out to leave 3 as the Rockies scored 2 to get even. Radio City on a Thursday afternoon. On SNY is brought to you by RPL Equipment from Midtown to Montauk. For all your contracting needs, visit them online at rplequipment.com. Home third inning in a 2-2 game. Angel Pagan leads off against Jorge De La Rosa. It'll be Pagan, then David Wright and Carlos Beltran after the Rockies tied the game with 2 in the top of the third. Angel went down looking his first time up, still looking for his first right-handed hit of the season, and takes a curveball for a strike from De La Rosa. Kevin Burkhardt is joining us in the booth, and Kevin, you bring news about the former Met Pedro Feliciano?
Yeah, he's got a torn capsule in that left throwing shoulder.
Hit in the air to deep left field. Back goes Gonzalez, going back. Warning track, reaches out and makes the catch. Terrific play by the Gold Glove left fielder to take an extra base hit away from Angel Pagan. 1 down. It's your Home Depot doing more on defense.
Well, I will tell you, if you're not as gifted an outfielder who can play any position center field, I don't know if any other left fielder makes this play, because he ran back on that ball like you would have to run back when you're a center fielder. That ball straight over your head and made the play.
Well, De La Rosa happy for the help. So 1 long out here in the home third. Pagan pulled in at second base almost in disbelief. Here's David Wright, who walked and stole a base his first time up. So Feliciano done for the year, huh?
Out for a year. He said he's hoping to be back, next April. But it's a pretty big blow to the Yankees. Right now have Boone Logan as the only lefter on their staff, if I'm not mistaken, and that's not the same.
Yeah, he started out slow too, Boone Logan, and those left-handed specialty artists are much needed in the AL East.
Now that capsule injury, I don't know if it's the same area, but that's the injury that felled Johan Santana. And, it's an injury that pitchers have had a hard time coming back from. That's what Mark Pryor had. That's what Chen Ming Wang had.
And, Wang's still out. The Nationals are hoping he'd be ready by the start of the season. He's still fighting to get back. And I guess, guys, it depends on how big the tear is, too, in that capsule. Hard to compare that without talking to the doctors.
Well, I feel bad and good at the same time for Feliciano. Bad that he's going to miss the year, but good that he got the 2-year contract.
Yeah.
That worked out well. I mean, what a difference if he didn't get that.
Well, it was his turn to cash in after what he accomplished the last few years as a Met.
Well, think about how you get spoiled too. You watch Feliciano here, and you can make an argument the last 3 years he was, maybe the best player on the team for stretches. Okay, that's how good he was. And he was, had so many good stretches against lefties. Seemed like he got Chase Utley out, so many times. And this year, Mets, the whole pen is in a state of trying to figure out exactly where guys fit. Tim Burdak's the lefty out there.
David hits one in the air to deep left field. Gonzalez going back to the track, looking up, and it's off the wall. Wright hustling to second base, and he's in standing with a double. And David might have been caught admiring that one, as Hairston was in the last inning.
Well, this ball got in just a little bit on David. You see how he pulled those arms in? Just got in just enough, but off the number 37, Casey Stengel in left field. He's running good.
He was running.
He's running good.
He just had to turn it up a notch when that ball came off the wall with Gonzalez playing the carom.
Well, David's learned. He's seen a lot of balls stay in this house.
Shouldn't take that long. Hit the ball, run hard. In this place, you never know. So the Mets have the tie-breaking run at second with one out. And here's Beltran, who grounded out to third his first time up. And it's taken low and away for ball one.
As the ILTV pitch differential, wanted it down and in, left it middle. Enough in, though. You can see it hits below the trademark for David, a little inside.
Very interesting, though, the last two innings, the right-hand hitters for the Mets getting some really good swings and pulling the ball against De La Rosa, a quality left-hander. Hairston and Nickius in the last inning, Pagan and Wright here in the third. De La Rosa, remember, bothered by a blister his last couple of starts. Actually, two different blisters. They had solved the first problem, and he came up with a blister in a different spot on the same finger. Going inside to Beltran, 2-0.
Well, I think a lot of times when you talk about blisters, you say to yourself, well, how does it really affect the pitcher? It's all about feel, your ability to hold that baseball. And why do they get blisters? I think it depends on the person. I mean, if you have those real blue collar kind of tough hands, you're not going to get blisters. But some of the pitchers do not have that. And if they hold the seam in a certain way, it'll start to chafe away at the skin. It'll produce a blister, and it's impossible to get rid of it during the season.
Suburban hands?
Yes, more suburban hands, yes.
So are you saying for these guys should go build houses in the offseason to get some calluses on their hands?
I think so, absolutely.
I mean, anything would work?
That's right.
I don't know. Nolan Ryan was pretty tough, and he had blister problems early in his career.
He was throwing 200 miles an hour. He had to break it down a little bit.
How do you prevent it? I mean, is there anything you could put on your hands to toughen the skin?
Not really. I've heard some, some homemade things that people have tried to use.
Super glue?
Yeah.
Beltran pulls one foul.
But for the most part, I used to get a huge blister on my thumb when I threw a curveball. In fact, I'm showing it to you now, Kevin. I still have the scar.
Yeah, you do.
From the day, and that's 100 years ago. But once I broke my thumb, I couldn't throw that breaking ball anymore, so the blister went away. So.
But the scar remains.
Well, I guess I had suburban hands.
Not in Worcester.
Blue collar family, suburban hands.
2-2 to Beltran with Wright at second and one out. And De La Rosa gets Beltran swinging. Iannetta makes the toss to complete the putout for the second out. Third strikeout for De La Rosa.
Talking about blisters and hands, might as well talk about nails. Talked to R.A. Dickey between games, and you guys were talking about how the knuckleball was a little slower. It seemed a lot of knuckleballs he was throwing in the lower 70s, and he said the nail was not an issue. He said it was strong. He presented the fact that at times there was a stiff wind a little bit in his face. And he said, just a little bit of the game plan. He said, I thought I threw some hard ones when I wanted to. So he made it seem like the nail was not an issue and that it was his choice to slow it down a little bit. But, I think the one thing that's been consistent, nail good or not so far, is he has not had that same pinpoint control, which was outlandishly good last year with that knuckleball.
Did he talk at all between games about the Tulowitzki at bat when he threw 5 straight fastballs and got the double play?
Yeah, he didn't. And it's probably my bad for not asking him about that. It was a relatively quick session.
I mean, he had really been struggling with his control in that inning, and the bases are loaded, and he just came right after Tulowitzki in a way that we certainly have not seen him against a big hitter before. And it worked out for him. Davis walked and scored his first time up. Ike has been throwing a lot of walks early in the season. And Terry Collins has been very impressed with his plate discipline, his knowledge of the strike zone. Scott Hairston on deck. We're only 2 weeks into the season, Ronnie, but it appears the sophomore slump, sophomore jinx, is not present for Ike Davis.
Ike's a good player, and he also has the perfect kind of mentality to play this game. There's a very chill personality about him. There's not, like we talk about Angel Pagan being wound really tight, and things can maybe affect him a little more. Ike is not that kind of personality.
So you're saying Ike is never going to get the nickname Crazy Horse?
No, he'll never get crazy.
Well, we can compare hobbies. Angel Pagan likes to spearfish. Ike would be the guy who would be on the side of a creek sitting on a bucket and casting a little wooden reel trying to get a small little fish.
Nice.
No spear.
Is it no spear at all?
That's right.
Well, there you see the numbers from last year for Ike. Looking for even better things in year number 2. Trying to pick up right from second with 2 down. And De La Rosa deals low and away with the slider, and it's 3-2. By the way, Jorge De La Rosa with Oliver Perez not in the major leagues, and with Rodrigo Lopez not in the major leagues, and with incredibly Elmer DeSens not in the major leagues, and that I don't understand at all. He is the leading active winning pitcher from Mexico.
Wow.
50 career wins, more than any other active Mexican pitcher. How is Elmer DeSens not in the major leagues?
Especially after last season.
That's what I mean.
He might have been the most valuable bullpen guy for the Mets last year.
Could use him right now, couldn't they?
Yes, they could.
Ike goes down swinging. Good off-speed pitch by De La Rosa to get him. 4 strikeouts for Jorge De La Rosa, and the Mets are done in the third, tied at 2. Traffic's a little light downtown today.
It's Katz's Delicatessen.
Oh, it's Houston Street.
It's Houston, exactly.
Katz's Delicatessen. Talked about Mama's. Well, Katz's is, it's the adjunct. It's the pastrami version of Mama's.
There you go.
Ryan Spilborgh's leading off in the 4th inning and takes a strike. Chris Capuano gave up a couple of runs in the 3rd after being handed a 2-0 lead. Spilborgh's fly to right his first trip. A ball and a strike. Lower third of the order for the Rockies here in the fourth. Chris Iannetta and Jorge De La Rosa to follow. Spilborghs almost screws himself into the ground trying to stop the swing. Didn't work. 1-2.
Just a fastball upstairs, and we talked about it before. 24 swing and misses against Capuano in his first start. That's the most by far in a start by any Mets pitcher.
Out to center field. Pagan is right there. 1 away. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV, and you can listen to every Met game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. We'll be in Atlanta tomorrow night. DJ Carrasco makes the start against Derek Lowe. And then Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. Sunday we're on picks for the first time this season. And then the Mets are back home next week to play Houston and Arizona. A rough start for the Astros at 3-9 on the season.
Kevin, you're going to have to break out your baby blue on Sunday.
It's not in the suitcase, Ronnie.
No.
Nope.
I don't know. Kevin's been dressing so well this early season.
He has turned it up a notch, I'll tell you.
Do you know how many people have asked me where the blue polo shirts are? I'm like, I mean, I can wear other things. I do it, I think people feel like I have one blue polo shirt that says one. I just wear that continually for 150 days.
Is that not the case?
Well, it was until this year. As a matter of fact.
No, but people here love you, so they want to identify with you. They want to see you right away. So when you're in your regular leg gear, they can't always get you.
It's a case of warmth. It's been chilly out, so you wear, maybe tie it up, a little T-shirt and sweater over it.
Well, you had the big SNY parka on the other night on the cold one. Strike 3 called, and Iannetta's down looking. That's strikeout number 3 for Capuano, who fanned 8 in his first start.
It was chilly the other night. I almost went to Kevin Kierst and asked if he had an extra pair of lawn johns. I was teetering on that. That was close.
Here's De La Rosa, who struck out trying to bunt his first time up. And a little tapper. Emus comes in to grab it. And the side retired. So Capuano with a 1-2-3 top of the fourth. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the fourth, tied at 2. On SNY is brought to you by Verizon 4G LTE. Rule the air on the most advanced 4G network in the world. By Audi. And by State Farm. Today's State Farm agent of the day is John Garfinkel of Brooklyn. Contact John's office at johngarfinkel.com. What, did he kidnap Pat Cauley?
Where's Cauley? They put the Fink on there.
SNY is giving back to local youth baseball leagues with the SNY Play Ball Award presented by Sports Authority, offering $5,000 grants to in-need organizations to be used for new equipment, uniforms, or field improvements. The deadline to apply is June 15th. For details, visit sny.tv or any local Sports Authority location. Scott Hairston leads off in the bottom of the fourth, and all of a sudden things have gotten a lot brighter for Hairston. Homered in the ninth inning in game one today, and nearly homered in his first at bat in this game, hitting it off the orange line at the top of the left field fence. Came around to score a run. And the breaking ball by Jorge De La Rosa misses for ball one.
Quick observation: Pat Cauley being bumped off the State Farm ad is like Butler making it to the NCAA final 2 years in a row.
That's right. How did it happen?
I'm stunned. I can't believe it.
Good changeup by De La Rosa, and it's 1-1. Well, Cauley's out there somewhere.
He's on third base, I think. Kind of looks like Ty Wigginton.
That's right.
That's a good call.
Does.
Good call. Want to do a separated at birth on that, like R.A. Dickey in the edge. There's the 1-1. And did Hairston go? Nope, stopped it in time. Ron Culpa with a call down at first. 2-1. It'll be Hairston, then Brad Emus, and Mike Nickius here in the fourth inning. Mets trying to snap a 4-game losing streak and avoid a 4-game sweep against the Colorado Rockies, who are playing the best baseball of anybody in the majors right now. High fly ball, left center field. This one's playable. And Fowler drifts over. Like Carlos Gonzalez. Just put your hands on your hips and wait for the other guy to catch it. That's an interesting attitude. Second game of a doubleheader.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of chill and cool in Mr. Gonzalez.
I thought, actually, you called it, Ronnie. The classic play of the day today was Tulowitzki running the sunglasses out to Carlos Gonzalez after he lost the ball in the sun in the first game. And he's like, they're like hot and cold running water. Emus with a beautiful bunt. Wigginton with the bare hand play, can't make it. And Emus has a bunt single. Nice job by Brad Emus to get that bunt down.
Well, Wigginton was playing pretty deep there on that bunt by Emus. Nice job of taking advantage of Ty at third base.
You see Ty trying to pick that ball up with 2 fingers. That's a hard thing to do with that ball rolling like that.
He's having a laugh with Chip Hale who's getting on him.
So 1 out and 1 in. Here's Mike Nickius, who has the Mets' biggest hit in this game so far. Drilled a double to left field to drive in both New York runs. His first 2 major league RBIs. Emus at first. David Wright took liberties against De La Rosa back in the first inning and stole second base standing up. See if the Mets have caught something in De La Rosa. Whether Emus will try and swipe one here. A little quicker to the plate there, and it's ball 1.
Well, this is a hit by Mike Nickius. Little changeup in the middle of the plate. Nice job of driving that over the head of Carlos Gonzalez in left field. And first 2 RBIs, I believe, from Mike Nickius in a Mets uniform.
Took back a long time to get to the major leagues. At age 28, getting an opportunity to play now with Ronnie Polino on the disabled list. Let's hope to have Polino back about the same time they hope to have Jason Bay back around the 26th of April. But at this point, Polino played a small handful of games during spring training, has caught only a few of the Mets pitchers. It's going to be a tough transition when he comes back.
Well, the thought is, and I asked Terry this about a week ago, and Polino's has just outstanding numbers lifetime against lefties. I want to say, is he 338 maybe, something right around there.
Yeah.
And I asked Terry, does that mean he's playing against lefties all the time? I mean, you've got a young catcher. It would be nice to see him develop against lefties, kind of like Ike has. He's shown he can hit lefties. And Terry basically said that, yeah, likely. However, I can't see how he's going to be able to catch R.A. Dickey. He hasn't really done it. I mean, that's a hard thing to learn during a major league season, right?
And Terry pretty much said that. He said he'll play against all lefties except when Dickey's pitching. And, even Toley's had his problems with Dickey. early this season, his ball's been moving so much at times that Tolley, who seemed to have no trouble at all catching Dickey last year, has had a few clank. We even brought up Gino Petralli in game 1 today.
I think that has a lot more to do, though, with the wildness of Dickey. Yeah. Last year, he was pretty true to form all season long, not walking a lot of guys. His pitches have been more out of the strike zone than they were last season.
Well, and I think also today in particular, throwing the softer knuckleball, that ball's going to move more than the harder one does. 2-1 to Nickius with Capuano on deck.
Kevin, you were giving us the state of the clubhouse and Terry Collins and the team. I was just wondering, how hard is it for you to do your job, but at the same time give these guys, Terry Collins included, enough space so you don't feel like you're infringing on what they're trying to do?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's very much a feel thing. It really is. Since we're talking about R.A. Dickey, might as well use some of his words about the knuckleball. I mean, it is very much a feel thing. I mean, obviously, I have a job to do, and trying to add to the broadcast things that are important, things that are interesting, and then do the different interviews for the game or for the pregame show. So there's a lot of different things each day that are done. But at the same time, you're with these guys every day, and you don't want to be infringing, on their personal space, and I think that can happen. So I think it is a balance of knowing when to lay off, if that makes any sense. I mean, you could easily I could easily talk to David Wright every day. Yeah. I mean, he's the face of the team. He's involved in big plays every day, but I don't, because you kind of got to let it breathe a little bit. Yeah. And I think if you do that, then when you need that person, you get better information, more entertaining information. It's just like anything else, I guess. If if your phone's ringing every day, talking to your friend, maybe all right, let's give it a couple days here. Call me back after the weekend's over. And I think the guys in the clubhouse are great, and they also respect the job that we have at hand, and they're very good at that. They understand that, and that's obviously a huge part of it. Because if they didn't, clearly it would be a lot harder for me.
Yeah, if they tried to shut you out, right?
Yeah, and I think also. You do a great job of this, Kevin, is you need to spread it out. As Nickius draws a walk and the Mets have 2 men on. In other words, you talk about not talking to David Wright every day. You want to get down and talk to Mike Nickius or Taylor Puckholz, or the guys that people don't know quite as well, and get a little background there that's going to help you in the broadcast.
There's a lot of interesting stories. Everybody's got a story, and it's a matter of can we tell them all and bring that to the fan during the season. So there's 25 guys on a team. There's 25 guys on the visiting team. So I think there's a lot that is there, and hopefully you get to at least tell the fan who these guys are. I mean, obviously there's a lot of baseball stuff involved, clearly on a game-to-game basis, but I'm also trying to let the guys let me in.
Capuano with a pretty bunt, and Helton comes in to field it. 3-4 on the sacrifice. Nicely done by Capuano, and runners are at second and third with 2 out. He has really shown a facility with the bat, hasn't he?
He really has an idea up there what he's doing. Great form, having that bat right in front of the plate. If you have the bat in front of the plate, simply just put it in front of the plate. Ball can't go anywhere but fair. Push it out there, catch it on the end of the bat, and that's what you're doing when you're sacrifice bunting. A lot of people say, well, you're bunting the ball to someone. You're catching the baseball with the end of the bat, and if you do that every time, you're going to deaden the ball perfectly like he did there.
So an RBI chance for Reyes, who's 0 for 2 in this game, after going 2 for 4 in the first game, including his first home run of the year. And even though Reyes has gotten off to a terrific start, hitting-wise, RBI-wise, he has really struggled. Jose now just 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position this season. And that's really reflective of a team-wide issue. Mets have had chances. They have not done a good job cashing them in, especially with 2 out.
Gary and Ron, I thought the conversation you had in game 1 about Reyes was fascinating. And that is what the Mets will be dealing with this whole year as they evaluate him. There's so many factors there. And I think one which you hit on as well, when Sandy Alderson let go of Luis Castillo and Oliver Perez, he admitted that the fan negativity was indeed a factor. So is the fan reaction to Reyes going to be a factor in keeping him?
Interesting.
Well, I thought Ronnie made a great point in that conversation, which is if you let Reyes walk or if you trade him for prospects, how do you replace what he brings to the table? I mean, you can plug, Ruben Tejada or Reese Havens or whoever it is who's the next shortstop for the Mets if Reyes goes. You're not going to get 9/10 of what Reyes brings to the table, as good as those players might be. There's a 2-1. And Reyes chasing the fastball off the plate, 2-2.
And I think there's the problem when we're talking about Reyes 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. He's looking for a ball middle in, and that ball is off the plate away. So I think what happens for Jose, and he's got that kind of personality, very excitable, is that he can't wait to get a hit in an RBI situation. And sometimes a pitcher's trying to pitch around you, and you have to recognize that situation. Not trying to pitch around him here, but make sure that until you get to 2 strikes, you kind of get your pitch to hit.
More of a spear fisher than a pier guy.
There you go.
Breaking ball down, and it's 3-2 to Reyes with Angel Pagan, the spear fisher man, on deck.
Well, earlier in the homestand against Washington, and he didn't need a base hit. He needed a ground ball to second base and didn't get that. So just to add to the thought.
And he was swinging at first pitch changeup from Clippard. Now Clippard showed in that series how good he can be. But that's probably a pitch you don't want to swing at in that situation. Easier, of course, said than done.
Reyes 4 for 10 as a right-hand batter this year. 2 in scoring position with 2 down. Tie game, 4th inning. And Reyes bounces one over the mound toward the middle. Base hit. In to score is Emis. Right behind him is Nikias. A seeing eye single for Jose Reyes. Plates a pair, and it's 4-2 New York.
Isn't it funny when you don't try to do too much and just play the ball back up the middle, good things can happen. He made contact with that, got on top of it to hit it on the ground, and Herrera kind of got in the way here, and this is why I'm saying this. When you have runners on second and third and 2 outs, you've got to dive after that baseball. Herrera did, but Tulowitzki didn't, to keep that ball in the infield.
Trying to at least keep that second run from scoring. So Reyes drives in his 4th and 5th runs of the year, and the Mets are back in front 4-2. Now Pagan, who's 0 for 2 in this game, robbed of an extra base hit on a tremendous play by Carlos Gonzalez, retreating in left field in the 3rd. And let's see if Reyes tries to swipe one here against De La Rosa. And De La Rosa employing the long hold to try and freeze him. Reyes stole a base in the first game today, 4 for 4 on the year. And this is one of those spots where you'd love to see him run early to give Pagan a chance to drive in the run. Pagan loops one into shallow right center and overcomes Spilborghs in the sunshine to put it away and end the inning. But Reyes' 2-out, 2-run hit gives the Mets another 2-run lead. Just snuck its way through to bring home a pair and put the Mets up 4-2 after 4. second game of the doubleheader. Mike Davis playing both ends for the Mets, as are David Wright and Jose Reyes, Angel Pagan, all playing both ends of the doubleheader. And, you know, doubleheaders used to be a fairly common occurrence in baseball. The Mets, their first year in the National League in 1962, played 30 doubleheaders. It's almost 40% of their games were doubleheader games.
Well, we used to have a lot of doubleheaders on Sunday and travel day on Monday and day off.
But of course, in those days, games lasted an average of 2:15, 2 hours and 20 minutes, and those days are long past. And I would imagine that as an everyday player who plays both ends of a doubleheader, it's got to be even more grueling than it used to be.
I think it's grueling, but we're talking about April. We have a lot of off days. The next Met off day is on Monday, so you know you're going to have some time off. I think that what you would love to happen is that your team's on a winning streak, so you can afford the luxury of resting one of those guys if you could, but you can't right now when you've lost 7 of your last 8.
Dexter Fowler leading off in the 5th inning, singled in a run his last time up.
Well, that was very interesting. Nicky has called for a fastball in. Capuano shook him off. Nicky has called for it again, but Capuano won.
Fowler shoots one foul, 1-2.
How hard is the waiting game for the pitcher of the second game of this doubleheader? I mean, is that a difficult thing?
It's grueling because what you have to do is you have to show up probably when the first game starts, and you're sitting there watching the game, and you just feel like it's going on forever and ever, and you don't know when you're going to, you know, when do you start getting ready? You know, when do you get that game face on? You've got guys, people coming in and trying to talk to you, and you don't know whether to talk to them or have the game face or be friendly to eschew the pizza that they just ordered. You know, all of those things come into play.
Is that harder than a rain delay?
The hardest part of a rain delay is that everyone is having a blast except the starting pitcher. Guys are playing cards, you know, they're talking, they're having fun, the music's on, all that kind of stuff. And the starting pitcher, you got to keep that game face on, especially if you were taken out in the rain delay. You have to go right back out there and warm up.
Fisted foul by Fowler, still 1-2.
But a lot of times what you're looking at is just maybe not added pressure, but if your team wins the first game, you want to give them a great chance to win the second. If they lose the first game, you're like, boy, I've got to win this. Let's say they play extra innings in the first game. You use a lot of that bullpen. You say to yourself, well, I got to go 8 or 9 innings today. So sometimes it adds a little pressure.
And Capuano with a good changeup strikes out Fowler. That's 4 strikeouts now for Capuano.
Capuano has been the best so far with the swing and misses, and 8 strikeouts in his last start, 4 already today, and that is a power changeup out of the strike zone.
With the 8 strikeouts in his first start for the Mets, Capuano became only the 3rd Met pitcher in history to win his debut as a starter and strike out 8. I find that fascinating that there are only 3 of them. Galen Cisco did it in 1962 in September, and then Santana did it in his first start as a Met in 08. And now Capuano did it against Washington. 8 strikeouts and a win in a Mets debut as a starter. Herrera rolls one out to Reyes, who guns him down for the second out. And that's 6 in a row now retired by Capuano.
Well, you thought Dwight might have done it in his first start, but Dwight only went 5 innings in his first start against Houston.
It doesn't seem like that crazy of a number for 50 years of baseball.
I mean, Seaver didn't win his first start. He got no decision.
I got a Larry L against Philadelphia. 2-0.
Still sitting with you. I can see it on your face.
Killing me. Started so good, you know. Struck out Morgan, struck out Rose, got Schmitty to hit a ground ball. I'm like, I'm the greatest. Here we go. Big L later.
A lot of ups and downs in this game.
That's right. I knew it right from the start.
Carlos Gonzalez has probably hit the ball harder than anybody else in this game. An absolute shot that Brad Emis somehow got a glove on the back end and got a force on in the 3rd inning. It rolled out of Emis's glove. Otherwise, he might have had a chance for an inning-ending double play. But instead, a run came home on that play and at the time tied up the game. Gonzalez only has 2 hits in this series, but he has 6 RBIs. And the slider for a strike from Capuano, and it's 1-2.
Quite the contrast in hits. One was a broken bat the other way that just snuck through the infield to drive in 2, and the other one was a bullet that got out of here in about 0.3 seconds.
That he hit off his ankles.
Yeah.
That was after the Igarashi play at home plate. Did not turn a double play, and it cost the Mets.
1-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Good fastball by Capuano. He fans 2 in the inning. That's 5 strikeouts and 5 innings for Capuano. He's retired 7 in a row. Let's present the heart of the batting order against Jorge De La Rosa. Mets with a 4-2 lead. A couple of big hits in this game. A 2-run double by Mike Nickius and a 2-run single by Jose Reyes have the Mets in front. David Wright's been aboard in both his plate appearances in this game. Walked and stole a base in the first and doubled to left in the third. And the breaking ball misses inside for ball 1. David is 5 for 14 in this series. And he strokes one foul, 1-1. Well, the Rockies are the first team from outside the National League East that the Mets have seen this season, and they're not going to see another one until next week when the Astros come to town. But there's every reason to think that this could be one of the best teams in the National League right now. I mean, certainly the record indicates that, but also just all the things that they are able to do well. Starting pitching, even without their ace Ubaldo Jimenez, who comes back next week. Power arms in the bullpen. Middle of the batting order power. The leadership and defense that those two guys, Gonzalez and Tulowitzki, show. The veteran player in Helton fouled off the foot of Wright. It's hard to think of another team in this league that has all those things going for them.
Yeah, they're pretty solid. I mean, they're going to have to figure out what's going to go on at third base. I mean, Ian Stewart's been quite the enigma for a few years now. I mean, Ty Wigginton, can he play there every day? Is there another option there? But they don't have too many spaces like that on the roster. I mean,
well, even you talk about third base. I mean, if your second choice is Ty Wigginton, that's pretty good.
Right.
They could play Herrera at second every day and play Lopez at third or Wigginton if Stewart doesn't work out. It's a very interesting team and a franchise that has certainly evolved over the last decade from a team of bashers to a team that does just about everything well. Well, they've had stability in the front office, and that certainly helps. Dan O'Dowd, been there for a dozen years now as the general manager of the Rockies. 2-2 to right, and a tapper back to De La Rosa. And that's the first out of the inning. And, you know, it's also coincided with the introduction of the humidor in Colorado, which has taken away some of the pinball aspects of baseball at Coors Field. And I think that's enabled the Rockies to nurture their pitching and not have guys, you know, have to lie down on the couch every 5 days in order to put them out.
Well, I mean, you talk about Reyes before when we were talking about that situation and the decision the Mets will have, and we show the graphic about Dan O'Dowd and stability in Colorado. What about their star player? They had Matt Holliday, you know, and a big decisive point. What do you do with Holliday? He was such a key cog for them, you know, World Series team. Well, Matt Holliday turned into Carlos Gonzalez, and that is the type of thing that this organization is going to be facing. But I mean, you know, those are the decisions that can make or break you, and ends up they got a star back for Holliday.
Actually, they got two. They got Houston Street
as well,
also.
Yep.
And you know, obviously, if the Mets come to that decision, as Beltran fouls it back, about Reyes or anybody else, that's where your scouting pays off. Your major league scouting, your minor league scouting, to know who you want to identify as the prospects from another organization that you would want to bring back in a trade. Now, obviously, it's always harder when you're trading a guy in his walk year, because the team that gets him gets that much less value out of him just for the remainder of that season, unless they're given a window to sign him to a long-term deal. And so all those things come into play, and that will speak to the structure that Sandy Alderson has put together, not just himself as the general manager, but, you know, Paul DePodesta and J.P. Ricciardi and the entire structure that has been created now and is still being created below them. Beltran goes down swinging for the second out, because those are the things that can make your franchise.
Well, when I look at the Mets team right now, if you do decide to trade Reyes at some point, you've got to get a top of the line starting pitcher. Simple as that. You know, whether it's a Matt Cain or whoever you're going to look for out there. You don't like that? You like more
See, I don't
young?
think it's going to go that way.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get an established major league player when you're going to trade a guy in his walk year. I mean, let's assume that if the Mets were to decide to trade Reyes, it would probably not be until June.
Yeah.
Or maybe even July. And at that point, I don't think any team's going to give up a front of the rotation starter like that.
Well, they got Street, but he was a closer, which is different.
But, you know, Gary, you're talking about with the addition of the humidor, to being able to develop some of those arms, right? Well, you know, Sandy wanted to come in and overhaul everything and you know, start from the very beginning, low A ball, all the way up, and develop their type of players, start to, you know, change things up. And, you know, so you're seeing, I mean, I think there are some similarities to be drawn in some ways. Obviously, the Rockies have been very successful with that.
Oh, and 2 to Ike Davis, and he checks his swing. He went around strike 3. So back-to-back strikeouts for De La Rosa to finish the 5th. Hey, Kevin, thanks for visiting.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You done already?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna go get lost.
There's more snacks out of in the back. Chris Capuano has settled into a nice groove as we head to the 6th inning. He's retired 7 in a row and struck out 3 of the last 5 batters to face him, and now he'll face Troy Tulowitzki the way he wants to, with the bases empty. Tulowitzki has bounced to short and walked in this game 0 for 1, 8 for 13 in this series. And he hits one in the air to deep left field. Hairston going back onto the warning track, looking up, and it's out of here. Troy Tulowitzki homers for the 4th straight game in this series. Unbelievable. He cuts the Mets lead to 4-3. And the fortunate thing for Capuano, he faced him with nobody on base, and he still has the lead. But Tulowitzki is treating Citi Field like it's a video game. 4 home runs in 4 games in this series. He now has 7 for the year. I mean, he's good.
But I don't know. Is this good? A little hanging slider in the middle of the plate. And let me tell you this, folks, he missed that. He got underneath that a little bit and still hit it out of the ballpark.
What a series. Wigginson's 0 for 1. He hits one deep to left field. Hairston going back on this to the warning track, and he'll have room this time to make the catch.
See Capuano's reaction.
Capuano, who gave up a pair of home runs to the Nationals in his first start. Well, no shame there. Everybody else is giving one up to Tulowitzki.
You know what's scary is that Tulowitzki is having this kind of series. You guys gave the numbers last night. He had a whole month like this.
15 homers, 40 RBIs in September of last season. Of course, if you hit a home run a day, that's better than 15 in a month.
That's right. That's right.
Where do they go? They go home after this.
Yes.
Right?
Chicago Cubs.
There are a few home runs in that ballpark, too. Todd Helton is 1 for 2. And Capuano misses high at 1-1. So Capuano now hanging on to a 1-run lead. And Helton takes it just off the plate, 2-1. We were talking about pitching first and second games of doubleheaders. We have unearthed your records from doubleheaders, and it pretty much bears out what you were saying. Your record in first games of doubleheaders, 15 of them, 7-4, 2.58. It's really good.
Styling.
Second games of doubleheaders, 7 of them, 3-2, 5.81.
Knew it.
Always throw running in the first game.
That's right.
Helton shoots one out to left, and Hairston coming on will have to play it on a hop. So Helton has his second hit of the game, and the tying run aboard with 1 out. So 1 out and 1 on. Ryan Spilmore is coming up. First, let's go to Chris Carlin for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. The other game in the division tonight, Florida playing in Atlanta with Ricky Nolasco against Brian Beachy after that incredible performance by Josh Johnson last night. Swing and a miss by Spilmore is 0-1. Johnson taking a no-hitter into the 8th inning before a soft double by Freddie Freeman broke it up. And Edwin Rodriguez said afterward that he would probably have been inclined to send Johnson out for the 9th had he gotten through the 8th. He had 109 pitches. So would have built up a pretty fair pitch count. Might have gone close to 130 had he finished the game, but Johnson's a big, strong guy.
Although he's been a little brittle in his career. So, you know, last year did not pitch in September because of the bulky back.
Shallow right field. Beltran started back and can't get there in time. So back-to-back blue pits by the Rockies, and that's a ball that should have been caught.
Well, what happens is that outfielders' reaction to the ball off the bat. And what happened to Beltran, he went back first, does not have that great speed, so was not able to make up for that little mistake early, and that ball dropped in.
These are the little things that are just killing this team right now. Outfield defense today has been a big problem for the Mets. Taylor Buchholz gets up in the Mets bullpen as Dan Warthen visits the mound. So the Rockies have already fought from 2 runs down to tie once in this game. Now back within a run again, and with the tying run at second base.
Well, it's philosophy too, Gary. If you have the philosophy that you're going to play your outfielders extremely deep, then if they do make one bad move, then they're never going to get to that ball if it's in front of them.
So Chris Iannetta, the number 8 hitter, comes up. Iannetta blooped a double down the right field line and scored a run in the third. Pitcher De La Rosa has come out on deck. Capuano looking for the double play ball here against Iannetta after giving up back-to-back bloop hits, and that one misses low and away. 2-0. Capuano trying to puzzle his way through it.
Well, this is one of those where you really have to kind of suck it up a little bit, because he looks like he's just starting to tire a little bit.
Fastball losing a little bit of a zip. It was 89 early in the game. Now it's 85.
And I think both Chris Capuano and Chris Young right now in April, you have to be kind of careful with them, I believe. I know that Chris Capuano has talked about he's healthy, he's fine, he's 100%. But to me, they're kind of 100-pitch pitchers right now here in April.
And he's at 92 right now, working with 1 out of the 6th. Mets would be thrilled to get him through the 6th inning and hand it off to the bullpen. 2-1 to Iannetta with the pitcher on deck. And that misses low, ball 3. A walk would load him up for De La Rosa. So a big pitch to make here for Capuano, trying to protect the lead. Leads have been far too fungible for the Mets on this homestand. And Iannetta watches low, ball 4. The bases are loaded. So Capuano issues his second walk of the day. The tying run moves to third. The go-ahead run to second with the pitcher De La Rosa coming up. And this could well be the last batter for Capuano. De La Rosa has struck out and grounded out in this game, 0 for 2. Helton at third, Spilborghs at second, and Iannetta at first with 1 out. And Buchholz just about ready in the bullpen with the switch hitting Dexter Fowler on deck. And De La Rosa hits a double play ball to Emis. He bobbles, gets it to Reyes, and that's all they get. Another double play the Mets can't turn, and the Rockies tie the game. That's been another theme for this team. Double plays not turned. It was tailor-made with the pitcher hitting it, and Emis had to roll up his arm.
Well, ball came up, and then he panicked a little bit. Even when he dropped it the first time, if he hadn't panicked as that ball runs up his arm, if he hadn't panicked and made the toss here, still would have had time to get the pitcher De La Rosa, but dropped it again.
So De La Rosa picks up an RBI as Helton comes home with the tying run, and the Rockies have again rallied to get even in this game. Now Dexter Fowler, who drove in a run with a third inning single. Tulowitzki led off the inning with a home run, but then 2 bloop hits, at least one of which certainly should have been caught. A walk and a double play not turned, and the Mets shoot themselves in the foot again. Fowler 4 hits and 13 at bats in this series. Spilborgh's the go-ahead run now at third, and De La Rosa on at first. 2-0 to Fowler. foul ball. 2-1.
You know, this is where this lineup with the switch hitters in the first and second slot really make it difficult for a manager and the starting pitcher. Really no place to go as far as gaining any leverage with a reliever.
This will be Capuano's 100th pitch of the day. And Fowler taps one toward third. Tough play for right. He lets it go, and it's a foul ball. Boy, it's a good thing it was, too, because one run certainly would have scored. And with that ball rolling into no man's land, it's possible De La Rosa could have scored all the way from first.
What a play. Once David decided that he would not have a play on Fowler, he puts his eyeballs on that ball, lets it go, and foul by what? 4 or 5 inches?
Ooh. Wow. Third base umpire Corey Blazer right on top of it, made sure it cleared to the outside of the bag. Capuano can breathe again, because if David picks that ball up in fair territory, the odds are he's not going to throw Fowler out, and that would have enabled Spilborghs to come home with the lead run. But had it stayed fair going beyond him, it could have been far worse. Now it's 2-2 to Fowler. And it's ripped into left field for a base hit, and the Rockies take the lead. Spilborghs comes in to score, and it's 5-4 Colorado. A series that has definitively belonged to the Rockies. They've come from behind time and time again. They've been down 2 twice in this game, and now they've come back to take their first lead, and that's going to be all for Chris Capuano. Fowler with his second RBI hit of the game. And the Mets will go to the bullpen, and Taylor Buchholz, the former Rocky. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Lincoln. Colorado with 3 runs home in the 6th, and the Mets now down 5-4. Had 2-run leads in this game, but he leaves on the short end of a 5-4 score after 5 2/3. An inning in which the Mets have given the Rockies at least 5 outs, and Taylor Buchholz will try and get the final out of the 6th.
Well, Buchholz has been as strong as anyone out of that bullpen with that good curveball. He's been able to get a lot of strikeouts when he needed them.
De La Rosa at second and Fowler at first with 2 down. 3 runs home in the inning. Jonathan Herrera the 8th man up. Herrera 1 for 3 on the day, a hit and run single back in the 3rd. 2 fly ball singles that fell in front of first Hairston and then Beltran, and then a double play not turned on a ball hit by the pitcher right at Brad Emus, And the Mets put in dire difficulty here in the 6th, and the Rockies, as they have all series long, have cashed in. And now Herrera takes the first pitch, curveball, and Nikias can't catch it, and the runners move to second and third. And the sloppy play just continues.
It's supposed to be a curveball here, and I think what fools Nikias is that the ball just does not break. Kind of stays up in the strike zone. Nikias trying to fight through the umpire Jim Joyce to get back at it.
Pass ball charge to Nikias. So now 2 in scoring position for Herrera with 2 down. And the big hitters, Gonzalez and Tulowitzki, next. So Buchholz, the former Rocky, who pitched well in the game here last night, a scoreless inning, delivers high to Herrera, and it's 2-0. For the most part, the Mets bullpen has performed pretty well the last couple of games. Parnell gave up the home run to Tulowitzki in game 1 today, but the Mets got 3 scoreless innings out of the bullpen last night. And both Burdak and Igarashi were clean in the first game today. There's a letter high strike, and it's 2-1.
Well, with Gonzalez and Tulowitzki coming up, I know Herrera's gotten off to a great start, but this is an out you have to have. Have to have it.
Well, right now, it's a matter of keeping your team in the game and giving hope. And Herrera pokes one foul. The Mets, if they lose this game, would get swept at home in a 4-game series. That has not happened to the Mets since 2004, when the Marlins came in late August, early September, and swept a 4-game series 7 years ago. And each of the first 3 games of this series, all 1-run defeats. And they find themselves trailing by a run again. Two to Herrera, and the breaking ball bounced foul up the first base line. De La Rosa back to third, and Fowler to second. Taylor Buchholz trying to get that power curve to work for him. And the fastball drilled to deep right field, back toward the corner. That ball is out of here. Jonathan Herrera with a 3-run homer. And the Rockies now lead it 8-4. Herrera with his first home run of the season, his first RBIs of the season. And the little guy has just his 2nd major league home run. And it has all come crashing down on the Mets again here in game 2.
Well, this fastball is supposed to be away. It drifts back over the middle of the plate. And the Rockies have had no problem hitting the ball out of here at Citi Field.
It's a 6-run 6th inning for Colorado. And now an 8-4 Rockies lead. And Carlos Gonzalez takes a curveball for a strike. Well, it all comes back to you give a good team extra outs, and they're going to find ways to hammer you.
You can't do it at this level. There's plays that you have to make if you're going to win ball games, and not to beat up on Emis, but those are the plays you just have to make. Simple as that.
Ground ball. Emis in front of this one. Handles it cleanly and throws out Gonzalez to end the inning. But 9 men came to bat. 6 of them scored. It all started with a Troy Tulowitzki home run. He's homered in all 4 games of this series. Capped off by Jonathan Herrera's 2nd big league home run, and it's 8-4 Colorado. so far. Taylor Buchholz, after giving up the 3-run homer to Jonathan Herrera. The Mets giving up a 6-run inning, the largest they've allowed so far this year. And now down 8-4 as they come to bat in the bottom of the 6th. Scott Hairston 1 for 2 in this game. Doubled high off the fence in left field in the 2nd. Fly to center in the 4th. After homering in the 9th inning of game 1. So Jorge De La Rosa, who's been behind by a couple of runs on 2 occasions, now with a 4-run edge. And he throws an off-speed pitch for a strike, 1-1. It'll be Hairston, then Brad Amos and Mike Nickius as the Mets try and fight back in the 6th. And Hairston pops it up right in the middle of the infield. And Hilton, they let it drop. And Hairston hustles into second base. Third base uncovered, and so half the team sprints over in that direction. But Hairston, who Cadillac on a ball that he hit off the fence early in the game, hustling this time and wound up at second base.
Well, the ball goes up. This is a play that Helton has to call. This is his play to make, and he should make it. Very difficult for Iannetta to make that play unless he turns around and falls in between. The Rockies have not played perfect either, and they've got 3 wins and looking at 4.
Here's Brad Amos with a runner at second and nobody out, and he takes a strike. Amos had a bunt single his last time up and scored a run, 1 for 2. They've yet to score that play. You have to think it's an error on the first baseman, and that's exactly the way they're going to call it now. Error on Helton. Amos chasing a fastball away, and it's 0-2. Well, we've said this often over the last few years, and you hate to belabor a point, but the general level of play in day games in the major leagues in the last few years has been awful. And it doesn't escape notice that it pretty much coincided with the time that Major League Baseball decided that, along with banning performance-enhancing drugs, that they would also ban amphetamines in the game. And that's not to endorse the use of amphetamines. It's only to take note of the fact that when you're trying to present a quality product every day, the product has clearly suffered in day baseball. Line to center field by Amos, right at Fowler, and he picks it off for the first out.
When you think about it, it's the only professional sport that's played every single day. No days in between, occasional day off here or there, and just from my own history, amphetamines were very prevalent when I first came up to the major leagues, and then after a couple of years, it kind of went in the back rooms where you wouldn't see it as much as it was when I first came up, where it literally was handed out like lifesavers.
Well, you're asking players to play day games after night games. You're asking them to fly from coast to coast. You're asking them to change time zones, and as you say, play every day. It's 162 games in a 180-day period, so you have a day off basically every 2 weeks. And you have players going out there and trying to play every day. And in this case, you've got 3 games in a 24-hour span. And a tool that used to be in the player's toolbox for trying to cope with that does not exist anymore. And again, that's not to endorse the use of amphetamines. It's just to point out the truth of the matter. And there's no question that the product in day games has suffered.
Yes.
Mike Nickius had a 2-run double back in the 2nd inning. Also drew a walk and scored a run in the 4th. So he's had a nice productive offensive day in his 3rd start. And he fouls it back 1-2. Chin Lung Hu has come out on deck to bat for Taylor Buchholz. Jorge De La Rosa up to 92 pitches on the afternoon, looking for his 2nd win of the year, and the off-speed pitch fouled off. Still 1-2. And so far today, De La Rosa has not given away that he might be battling that blister appears not to have been an issue for him this afternoon.
Yeah, his stuff looks sharp. If I were to change De La Rosa a little bit, and I think it would help his command, just work a little quicker. You know, he so much time in between his pitches. I think, you know, you don't get any real tempo.
And that curveball down, 2-2. If I recall from his days in Milwaukee, he might have worked even slower than so they might have actually quickened him up a little bit.
It's you know, for all pitchers out there, and for you young people that are aspiring pitchers, best way to have any uniformity in how you're trying to throw strikes is just have some tempo, so that you're getting the ball, you're seeing the sign, you're delivering the ball. And if you do that, you have a much better chance at throwing more quality strikes.
Off the glove of Iannetta, and on to third goes Scott Hairston. So another ball not caught. This one sailed up and away on Iannetta. This is a wild pitch.
It's a pitch that's supposed to be down and away, and maybe we should have done an IOTV pitch differential. That would have been about 4 feet.
Well, you know, it's the old pitcher's mantra that Ray Miller used to chant. In fact, they wore it on T-shirts when Ray was the pitching coach in Pittsburgh. Throw strikes, change speeds, work fast.
Yes.
The pitcher's trifecta. Ryota Igarashi up in the Mets bullpen. And you're not getting a lot of that today. But De La Rosa working with the lead. Here's a 3-2 to Nickias. And a high fly ball to left, not very deep. Hairston will tag, but as Gonzalez comes in to grab it, Hairston goes nowhere. And that's the second out. So two-way, Chin-Lung Hu will come up to pinch hit. Well, there's the update on this series. The Mets losing leads in all three of the first 3 games of the series, and they had 2 2-run leads in this game, but now trail. It has been a perplexing and aggravating series for Terry Collins, and for any Met fan who has been tuned for the last 3 or 4 days. So here is Hu, the only right-hand bat on the bench in this game for Terry, who appeared as a pinch runner in the first game, and he fouls back the first offering from De La Rosa.
You know, talking about that Ray Miller mantra, Gary, you know, I'm a living testimony that can help. You know, led the league in walks my second year in the big leagues, changed my entire tempo, worked quicker, and cut my walks in half the next season. Just that little thing can change everything for a pitcher as far as having command.
Now, how was there a direct correlation between working faster and walking fewer hitters?
Well, what happened is that I would belabor every pitch and try to make every pitch perfect. So I had to take time to think how I was going to make that pitch perfect. Then what happened to me is I just said, listen, I'm not going to be perfect. Let's just get the ball, throw a quality strike, and not be afraid of contact. I think that's the key for all young pitchers. So when they first come up, you know, you're facing a Pujols, you're facing a Wright, you're facing a Beltran, a Tulowitzki in this series. You think that they're so good that you can't throw a strike. You can't let them hit the ball. And that's a fallacy. The truth is that you want them to put the ball in play, and you want them to put it in play early in the count.
2-1 to Chin-Lung Hu. And he watches wide, and that one almost sailed past Iannetta as well. 3-1.
The more pitches that good hitters see, the lesser chance you have of getting them out.
And you see De La Rosa now tipping the cap back on his head, looking a little perplexed. There's nobody up in the Colorado bullpen. Remember, they lost a reliever to injury in the first game. Franklin Morales had to limp off with an apparent ankle injury. 3-2 now to Hu. They made a move with a pitcher between games and brought up Alan Johnson to give them an extra arm in the bullpen. But after using 5 relievers in the first game, Jim Tracy trying to go as deep as he can with De La Rosa. 3-2 to Hu. And Chin-Lung strikes out to end the inning. 7 strikeouts for Jorge De La Rosa. So he works around the leadoff error, and after 6 in game 2, it's 8-4 Colorado. one site, SNY.TV, the ultimate blog network featuring a continuous flow of sports news straight from the best New York sports blogs. SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. AT&T trivia question. Besides Gil Hodges, who has his number retired, who are the only other Mets to wear the number 14? So that would have to be prior to when.
When did they
Gil
retire his number? Immediately after he passed away?
That's a really good question. He passed away in the spring of '72, and I don't know whether it was immediately taken out of service, but I have to believe that after he passed away, even before it was retired, that nobody else wore it. So it would have to be before '68, which is when Gil arrived as the manager, and after '63, which I believe was his last year as a player. So somewhere in that time frame. Ryota Igarashi on to pitch in the 7th inning, and Troy Tulowitzki is up again. 4 home runs in this series. And he takes a curveball from Igarashi for a strike, and that in and of itself is a nice thing to see, because that's the first curve Igarashi's thrown since he's come back.
He looks like he's keeping that fastball down in the strike zone better, throwing that curveball in split finger, mixing it up a little bit, as opposed to trying to throw the ball through a wall like he did last season.
Good rip by Tulowitzki. So let's see. Tulowitzki is homered in all 4 games of this series. In the first game, he had a 2-run shot in the 8th inning off Bobby Parnell. In the game last night, he had a 3-run homer off John Neese in the 5th. That's the one he took into right field. In the first game today, he greeted Parnell again in the 7th. And today, leading off the 6th against Capuano. And he lines that one off Igarashi's glove. Emus stumbles back to get it and throws out Tulowitzki for the first out. Well, the Mets get a nice break against Tulowitzki that time.
Too good of an 0-2 pitch, though. These are the little things that you have to go back to. This is an 0-2 pitch. It's too good of a pitch in that situation. And it wouldn't hurt if someone would, say, hey, Tulo, I'm glad you're having a good series, but hey, take this back to Colorado with you. Something inside.
Well, Capuano tried to work him inside today. Now Ty Wigginton gets the jelly leg and takes a strike. Wigginton has grounded out, been hit by a pitch, and flied out to left. Looking for his first hit in this series. He's gone 0 for 7. Maybe Tulowitzki could share some with him. Tulowitzki 9 for 15 with 4 home runs in the 4 games. Breaking ball hit out to right, and Beltran is there. And that retires Wigginton, 2 out. Capuano started, went 5 2/3, charged with 7 runs on 8 hits, walked 2, struck out 5, and hit a batter. Allowed a home run. Taylor Buchholz faced 2 batters. One of them, Jonathan Herrera, stunned him with a 3-run homer. Felipe Polino gets up in the Colorado bullpen. Here's Helton, who's 2 for 3 in the game, and he takes it wide for ball 1. Well, we talked about it a little bit during the first game of the doubleheader today about Terry Collins and how he reacted after the game last night, both talking to his team and talking to the media. And the Mets have not done a great job of paying attention to detail today in the wake of those comments, and you just wonder how he handles it after the game today.
Yeah. Well, he threw the gauntlet down for his team, right? I mean, I think he even said we need to go 9-2 in the next 11.
Well, then they're going to have to go 9-0 in the next 9 if they don't win this one.
But I think what can happen is that this is not the first time now. In his first 11 games, he's called out his players for, hey, listen, if we cannot get the job done in pressure situations, we'll find people who can. The shipping out of Blaine Boyer early is a sign that, listen, if you can't get the job done, we're going to find other people. But I think what can happen is if you call out a team, you got to make sure that they don't start to play tight.
Floated into left, and that's going to fall for a base hit, and Helton is 3 for 4.
And honestly, what I mean by that is that you get everyone so ramped up. See a little swing by Helton, who's been doing this for his entire career. 2 strikes, works that ball off, fouls that ball off. You can run the danger of getting your team that they're playing so tight, they want to play so perfect that the athleticism does shine through. You can't play this game tight. You have to play it relaxed.
And yet it's such a fine line.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, think about the first game today. If David Wright's ball goes, 2 more feet and hits the overhang and it's a game-winning grand slam, the entire mood is different coming into game 2, and you don't worry about anybody playing tight.
That's right. But
and maybe some of the mistakes that they've made in the second game don't happen that way. Bouncing away from Nikias, and Helton will move up.
Well, that's why I think I said at the end of the game that there's probably no team in baseball that could use a walk-off hit like the Mets did in that first game. Just, to erase some of those doubts, erase some of that tightness, and just, start to try to get on their own roll.
Well, this will be a long day for the Mets. Got here early this morning, playing 2 games. They'll get on the plane when this one is over, fly down to Atlanta, and play the Braves tomorrow night. And I would say that getting out of town might be a really good thing for this team right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I happened to watch Derek Lowe pitch in his last game where he got beat by Cole Hamels. He was pretty much on point. He is returned 5-0 last September for the Braves, and some real good starts here early.
Well, there are no bargains on that Braves staff. They'll probably face Jair Jurgens on Saturday. It looks like he's going to come off the DL and make that start. And then Tommy Hanson, who was brilliant the other night, will pitch against them on Sunday. So there are no breaks there. Spilborghs lifts one down the right field line, and that'll go out of play. What they need more than anything else is they need a starting pitcher to go out and give them 8 scoreless innings. Now, Chris Young came pretty close to doing that in his last start on Sunday, but they lost that game. And nobody else has come close to putting up that kind of effort since. Tomorrow night they'll have a relief pitcher go to the mound and hope to give them 4 or 5 innings and have to fill in with the bullpen from there, unless coming out of this doubleheader they have a change of plans. I mean, that's possible. I mean, they've announced that Carrasco is going to start, but that doesn't mean they can't change their minds and call up a starting pitcher to work tomorrow night. 1-2 the count to Spilborghs, because I think the last thing that this team needs right now in the wake of the last 24 hours is to have their bullpen torn up going into those last 2 games in Atlanta.
Well, that's why it's so important when you have guys like Santana at their best, is that they are the streak breakers. They let the team know with their attitude and their body language, streak ends today, boys. Just get on my back. I'll take care of you today, and we'll start a new streak. Very few and far between those guys in baseball.
Igarashi with the 2-2. Swing and a miss. Got him with a splitter. Good pitch by Igarashi to end the inning. His first strikeout. 1 hit and 1 left. 7th inning stretch time at the top of the order coming up. At Bat 11 app for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Get live audio, pitch-by-pitch tracking, video highlights, and more. Text at BAT to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. Let's answer our AT&T trivia question. We asked which Mets wore number 14 besides Gil Hodges. Ron Swoboda and Kenny Boyer. Swoboda was a rookie in '65. Boyer came to the Mets, I want to say 67, maybe 66. So it was in that interim period between Hodges' playing career and his managerial career. Gil became the Mets manager in '68. They traded a pitcher to the Washington Senators to get Gil, who had been managing in Washington. Jose Reyes drove in 2 runs with a base hit up the middle in the 4th. At the time, it gave the Mets a 4-2 lead. But then the Rockies put up a 6th spot in the 6th to go up 8-4. Now the Mets trying to fight back again with 9 outs to play with. Jorge De La Rosa has gone the distance so far. 104 pitches under his belt. Angel Pagan and David Wright to follow in the bottom of the 7th. By the way, Gil's number was retired mid-season in '73. So about a year and a half after he passed away. Gil was only 48 when he died. Out of a massive heart attack right before the 1972 season. Reyes pops one up in the middle of the infield. Helton let the last one drop. This time he'll give way to Tulowitzki. Everybody else ran away. Let the captain take care of it. 1 out and nobody on. Why not? He's done everything else in this series. Well, Kevin Burkhardt visited with us early in the game. Now he's moved down to more familiar territory. Kevin?
Yeah, I got a little sushi first. I'm not going to lie to you, Garrett, but I'm back down here now watching the game. And, you know, you guys touched on it. You know, the Mets, with the results not there, they've already made a move. You know, they dipped in and tried to help out. They sent away Blaine Boyer. Obviously, they bring in Jason Isringhausen, just trying to find people that are working. And you look down the minor leagues, guys that could help. And they suffer a pretty big blow today. Boof Bonser, who had a forearm issue, came out of his start the other day. He's going to have Tommy John surgery. And think about what a tough break for him. He had 2 years ago torn labrum and torn rotator cuff surgery in the same go-round. And finally, spring training was throwing the ball well, felt good, and now this. But that's a guy that could clearly have come up and help either in a relief role or in a starting role. He's obviously now out for the year.
Well, that's another piece taken out of the puzzle, as Pagan takes it on the outside corner. And, you know, you look at other areas where the Mets might be able to beef up. As Jason Isringhausen gets up, they might, you know, make a move to bring up an outfielder. But Fernando Martinez is hurt again. Has a hamstring injury. It's limited him to just a couple of DH roles the last few days. Pagan out to center field, and Fowler is there. Now, yeah, they wanted Fernando to stay in AAA most of the year and be healthy and all that. But even at that, if he were healthy, you'd have to consider maybe bringing him up to try and lend a spark with Bay out of the lineup.
Especially with Bay not coming back for. I mean, there's a long period of time between today and the 26th of April. It's a long time. A lot of bad stuff can happen. So you want to try to turn the tide.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now David Wright. And, you know, one of the Mets' top prospects on the infield is Reese Havens. He had surgery to remove a rib in the offseason. He still hasn't played. So, you know, even if you would take the radical step of bringing up a guy like that, he's not anywhere close to being ready. So the Mets are basically going to have to ride with the guys that they have here, unless, you know, it's way too early in the season to think about making trades and anything of that nature. So right now they just have to figure it out with the guys who are here. And, you know, I think Terry's point is a valid one. They've been in virtually every game they've played. I mean, look at this series, losing 3 straight 1-run games.
Well, that makes those smaller plays that they have not made even more frustrating, though.
Wright today has walked, doubled, and hit a comebacker. 1 for 2 in the nightcap after going 1 for 5 in the opener. And he fouls one at the plate, 1-2. Yeah, meanwhile, De La Rosa giving the Rockies exactly what they need. Some depth out of their starter. Trying to finish off the 7th inning, up to 112 pitches for the day. They got the bullpen cranking for Colorado, but hoping to get him through this 7th, and he's 1 strike away from doing that. 2-2 to right. Matt Reynolds, the left-hander, joins the right-hander Felipe Polino in the Colorado bullpen. Now the 2-2 to David, and that's down. 3-2. Before the Rockies got to town, they had lost 23 of their previous 27 games against the Mets combined at Shea and Citi Field. 4 wins in 8 years. And now they make it 4 wins in 4 days.
Trying to make up for it in a hurry, aren't they?
3-2. And Wright fouls it off. Well, the Mets mounted a big 9th inning comeback in game 1 after falling 4 runs behind. Got a home run in the 8th from Reyes. Got 2 in the 9th on a Hairston home run and loaded the bases before the Rockies held on for the win. Hoping for a little late inning magic today to get them over the top and avoid the 4-game sweep. 3-2 from De La Rosa, and it's inside and low ball 4, and Wright is on with a walk. And let's see if Jim Tracy is going to go any further with De La Rosa. Up to 116 pitches now. You got the switch hitting Beltran coming up, Davis behind him, and here comes Tracy, and that will be all for De La Rosa. So bring in the left-hander. And De La Rosa will take his exit after 6 2/3 largely effective innings. He'll leave with an 8-4 lead as Matt Reynolds comes on. We'll be right back to Citi Field. Well, 3 games in 24 hours, and Matt Reynolds has pitched in all 3.
Well, we get to mention Austin P again.
Faced 1 batter last night, 1 batter in the first game today, and we'll try and get 1 batter out here in the 7th as he takes on Beltran, who went 0 for 3 against De La Rosa, ground ball and 2 strikeouts. Carlos had been swinging the bat so well coming into this game. Right at first and 2 out, and Carlos takes a fastball for a strike. De La Rosa threw 116 pitches over 6 2/3, allowed 5 hits, 4 runs so far, walked 4, struck out 7, threw a wild pitch, and leaves with a lead. Beltran hits one in the air to left center. Should be easy for Dexter Fowler, and that retires the side. So Reynolds comes on, gets his man, and we head for the 8th in game 2 of the doubleheader, where the Rockies doubling up the Mets.
Tomorrow, Mets will be in Atlanta for a weekend series with the Braves. It'll be Derek Lowe, who's pitched very well this year so far, against DJ Carrasco getting the start. It'll be kind of a bullpen game because of the doubleheader today. Mets having to do that, and they'll push Chris Young back to Sunday. Carrasco telling me today the biggest difference, he'll use more of that change and splitter, the things that he kind of eradicated from his repertoire out of the bullpen. But you look at this Braves team, and I think they're an interesting study right now. They were kind of the trendy pick at the end of spring training to win the NL East, and they've gotten off to a slow start as Chris Iannetta skies one at David Wright corrals for the first out. Well, they're 5-7 so far. They almost got no hit last night by Josh Johnson. And there are certain guys that just aren't hitting at all, namely Dan Uggla, who's batting 154 coming into tonight. Freddie Freeman, the heralded rookie, has had a really slow start to the year. And guys, it begs the question of a new manager. You know, we know Bobby Cox, the legend there, the respect that he had there, always that layer of calm no matter what the team is going through. So here's Freddie Gonzalez, who seems like the perfect fit for the job. But, you know, how about now when you get off to a slow start? And 5-7 isn't awful, but you're still getting off to a slow start. Some guys underperforming, the new guys, pressure, and the new manager. Curious to see how they react and how Freddie reacts to that here in the early going. Guys?
Well, there's one thing I know for sure. 5-8 in Atlanta or 5-7 in Atlanta is different than 4-8 in New York for a new manager. I mean, there's a whole different tone there, and you know, you have a fairly veteran team in Atlanta, so I think it's a little bit different than it is for Terry Collins here. Rafael Betancourt is up in the Colorado bullpen.
I think the one thing, though, they're looking at is Lichtenhausen with that good curveball strikes out Matt Reynolds. I think what they're looking at Atlanta, though, is something that's been a trend, and that's scoring some runs. They've really struggled that way. They've got a new hitting coach this year.
Well, the figuring was that if Chipper Jones stayed healthy, that their offense would be fine. Well, Chipper's been healthy, drove in his 1,500th career run last night. But, you know, they put a lot of stock in Freddie Freeman being ready to be the guy at first base and, you know, give them another big left-handed bat in that lineup. And he might hit eventually. He's just had a tough first 2 weeks.
Got a lot of people in playing different positions too. Martin Prado is playing left field now.
One thing that will help the Braves is their starting pitching is strong, and ultimately that's going to help them.
Their starting pitch is strong, and their bullpen is strong also. Venters and Kimbrel have been outstanding so far early in the season. You know, their defense, Alex Gonzalez up the middle, is as good as any shortstop defensively of his generation, I believe.
And gives you a little bit of home run pop every now and again, too.
But Freeman's not hitting, you know, he's gotten off to a slow start.
And Uggla, you know, is going to hit, but he's gotten off to a difficult start there. Got his first hit in Atlanta just the other night, but he's hitting about $150. 1-2 to Fowler, swing and a miss, and Isringhausen with a clean inning strikes out Fowler. So as he gets a 1-2-3 with a couple of punch outs to the bottom of the 8th, 8-4 Colorado. All right, Chris. Ike Davis leads off the bottom of the 8th for New York. Ike has walked and struck out twice in this game. Just 2 for 12 in this series after coming in hot. By the way, Kevin mentioned DJ Carrasco making the start for the Mets tomorrow night. DJ has said that he much prefers starting to relieving, but he's made only 23 major league starts, and 20 of those came in 2005 pitching for Kansas City. So he has not done a lot of starting over the last number of years. His last start came with the White Sox in 09, and that was just 1. 1-2 now to Davis. But I liked what DJ said about the difference between starting and relieving. He said being a relief pitcher, it's like checkers. Starter, it's like chess.
Nice.
Into left center field, and Gonzalez gives way to Fowler. One away. I get such a kick out of watching Carlos Gonzalez on those 50-50 balls in left center. Last time he had his hands on his hips, this time he just peeled away. Well, it's yours. Turn his back. Now what happens if he misses it? It's going to hit him in the back.
Exactly. I guess he has ultimate confidence in Fowler.
That's going to be all for Matt Reynolds. He got the left-hand hitter out. Now he'll take his exit, and Rafael Betancourt will try and finish off the 8th inning. Rockies with 5 more outs to get for a 4-game sweep. They lead 8-4. With 1 out in the 8th inning.
Well, Betancourt, who's had some outstanding years now, the kind of the setup man, his 4-run lead. He's in here to paddle against Willie Harris, who's going to bat for Scott Hairston.
Harris started in left field in the first game of the doubleheader, went 1 for 3 and a walk. 2 for 9 in this series. And he'll bat here against Betancourt, who gave up a couple of runs in the opening game of the series Monday night. So Harrison exits after going 1 for 3 in this game. Harris, then Emis up against Betancourt. Daniel Murphy, though, has come out on deck to bat for Brad Emis. And Harris takes a strike. Now, you pointed this out while we were in break.
Yeah.
I don't know if Rafael Betancourt at some time in his career was a second baseman, but he has the smallest pitcher's glove I've ever seen.
That looks like Joe Morgan in his heyday for the Cincinnati Reds glove. Tiny.
Now, there's an advantage, multiple advantages, right, to a pitcher having a large glove.
Well,
right?
one of the best Gold Glovers of all time, Greg Maddux, used an extremely large glove. You want to have as much leather as you can to try to knock down something back to the box.
And isn't there also an advantage in terms of hiding the ball?
Hiding the baseball, absolutely. I could have never used a glove like that. It would have flapped open and everyone would have known what I was throwing.
One and two to Harris. So Jorge De La Rosa went 6 2/3, allowed 4 runs, 5 hits. Matt Reynolds faced 2 batters, retired them both, and now Betancourt trying to finish off the 8th. Jim Tracy was not shy in the first game about pulling his closer in the 9th inning, which I thought was fascinating. He brought in Houston Street, who had saved the first 2 games of the series with a 3-run lead. And most managers, once they've gone to their closer in the 9th inning, are very reluctant to pull him out until he's blown a save.
You know, I never understand that, to tell you the truth, because everyone is going to have a bad day. Why wouldn't you think a closer is going to have a bad day or doesn't have his stuff that day?
And so Tracy, after Street had given up a couple of runs in that ninth, pulled him, brought in Matt Lindstrom, who had his own tightrope act before he finally held on for the save. Harris hits one out to center field, hit pretty well, but Fowler has room. And that's the second out. So the last 4 Met outs have all been fly balls to the center fielder. 2 out and nobody on. Now Daniel Murphy was in the on deck circle, but Brad Amos will stay in to bat for himself.
And I think that's a good move, because you're going to try to save Murph in case you need a big chance at a home run or an extra base hit.
Well, you have Murphy and Tolley left in the dugout. That's playing with a 4-man bench these days. Who and Harris have been used. Well, Francisco Rodriguez will be coming on to get an inning of work in the top of the ninth. Terry Collins has established rather early that if K-Rod has not been in a game for 3 or 4 days, he's going to get him in there to try and keep him sharp. But of course, that also has contractual implications if K-Rod gets a game finished, whether it's a save opportunity or not. Amos yanks one foul.
Well, you also run the risk, Gary, if you have a game similar to the one in the first game where you tie the game up in the 9th inning after he's had his inning of work. Tie it up, or...
Well, and of course the other risk is that you have K-Rod go out there for an inning of work, have a long inning, and then you need him tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Terry's already said that in those situations where he's just going out there to stay sharp, you try and cut him off after 15 pitches and have somebody else ready. It's hard to do sometimes, though, because now you're wasting another arm and putting yourself more behind the 8 ball as far as use of your bullpen. And the Mets have stretched that bullpen pretty thin early in the season.
Well, especially with DJ Carrasco starting tomorrow night. If you've got, I heard Terry Collins say 5 or 6 innings. I think if you got 4 sharp innings from Collins, as from Carrasco, you'd be very happy.
Well, because that reliever starting the game is really a double whammy. One, you have the reliever starting the game, so you have one less guy in the bullpen, and 2, you need more bullpen behind him because he's not going to go deep into the game. And then you probably lose him for not only tomorrow's game, but for a day or 2 after that.
Could you maybe put a Jonathan Neese out there just for one day in case you needed him? It's his throw day anyway.
It's probably a good thought. Neese isn't scheduled to pitch again until Tuesday night. Amos hits one in the air to left field, and Gonzalez moves back. He'll take this one, and the side retired. So the Mets go down 1-2-3 in the bottom of the 8th. On to the 9th in the nightcap of the doubleheader, where the Rockies up 8-4. 10:30 on Geico Sports Night. The Rangers get ready for Game 2 after dropping Game 1 last night of their series with the Caps. Knicks and Celtics get ready to start their playoff series on Sunday. And highlights from around the National League East. Coming up tonight, Geico Sports Night, 10:30, only on SNY. Willie Harris stays in to play left field as we go to the 9th inning. And Francisco Rodriguez will pitch the 9th for New York. He'll take on Jonathan Herrera leading off. Herrera hit a 3-run homer his last time up. That turned a 5-4 game into an 8-4 game.
You see Frankie's numbers so far in the season, saving 2 opportunities. Walks are up, though. 3 2/3 innings, 4 walks for Frankie.
Nothing in 2 to Herrera, who hit the 3-run homer off Taylor Buchholz. First man Buchholz faced in the 6th. Just Herrera's 2nd major league home run.
I mean, the most improbable at bat of the game.
It'll be Herrera, then the 2 big guys, Gonzalez and Tulowitzki, for the Rockies. And the changeup in for a call 3rd strike, getting Herrera for the first out. So 1 away. Let's see what's coming up on Lincoln Postgame Live. Let's check in with Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda. All right, guys, we'll look forward to that after we're done here. Here's Carlos Gonzalez, 0 for 4 in this game, 2 for 18 in the series with 6 RBIs. And he takes slider for a strike, 0-1. K-Rod has been able to stay sharp despite the fact that he's had limited work early in the season. Had the 1 blown save in Florida the first weekend of the season. 0-2 to Gonzalez. Well, Troy Tulowitzki will get 1 more turn at bat. He has owned this series. Homered in both games of the doubleheader today. Homered in 4 straight games in this series. What can he do for a parting shot?
And set a record for a 4-game series. He's been up 40 times in this series.
It only seems that way.
Only kidding, but it seems like he's up every inning.
By the way, if you're marketing on your calendar, the Mets go to Colorado May 9th, 10th, and 11th. I know Troy Tulowitzki's probably marketing on his calendar. Line into center field, and Gonzalez has a 1-out hit. So the Rockies get a base runner in front of Tulowitzki. The numbers are staggering. 9 hits in 15 at bats, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs in the 4 games. And the Rockies' young leader out of Long Beach State having himself a fun time in New York. Did everything but taking a Broadway show. Although he might
Maybe
have.
He did on the night that
Tuesday
they canceled
night.
the game.
Yep. If I know Tulowitzki, though, he was back in his room watching the MLB Network.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, he's gotten to the point where he's the biggest ski since Yastrzemski.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you, got to give something to these folks that have stayed here for these 2 games. I'm telling you, gamers in their own right.
You know, we call them diehards.
Diehards, that's right. I would prefer to do a little less dying, to tell you the truth.
It's been hard. See, that's a real diehard. Stay here for 2 games. You got the earplug to listen to
Howie and Wayne.
And you're scoring the game.
Nice.
That's outstanding. Here's a 3-0. And there's a strike. 3-1 to Tulowitzki. Even some of the diehards have trouble making it through the whole afternoon. I mean, usually we see Evan Roberts sitting down in the rows in front of us. Not there. There's the strike. 3-2. I mean, Evan is usually here rain, shine, snow.
Yes.
And has been since he was 5 years old.
Wow.
Here's Howie and Wayne.
Wayne already ready for the trip. Got his jacket on.
He can interrupt Howie every once in a while, can't he?
But Howie's got the leather on, so I'm thinking that Howie's going to fly out tomorrow, maybe. No sport coat. Could have a sport coat for the trip.
That's a good point.
Right?
We'll miss him.
No, we won't. Opens up more room.
3-2 to Tulowitzki with Gonzalez at first. He's running. And Tulowitzki bounces one through the hole for his 10th hit in the series. And Gonzalez goes first to third. So Tulowitzki with a measly single in his final at bat of the series. 10 hits in 16 at bats, and see you later. Take a look at the Mercedes-Benz Ultra-Mo, brought to you by your tri-state dealers, on the web at searchmercedes.com.
Well, all good hitters have that topspin on the baseball. That's why that ground ball eluded David.
So first and third and one out, and now Ty Wigginton, and the Mets will get somebody else up in the bullpen so that K-Rod doesn't have to throw too many pitches here in the ninth. Wigginton 0 for 3, and he dumps one into shallow right center. That'll fall for a hit. And chases Gonzalez home. Tulowitzki goes to third. Wigginton with his first hit in this series, and he drives in a run to make it 9-4 Colorado. Boy, have they had a good time in this series. Trailed in every game. Twice trailed by 2 runs in this game. And they just have stormed and broken it open again.
I'll tell you, the rest of the National League West better watch out, because this could be one of those teams, and next thing you know, they're 25-5.
Well, they'll be 9-2 after, or 10-2 after this game, unless they let the lead get away in the bottom of the ninth. Here's Helton, who's 3 for 4 in this game. And he takes down low for ball 1. Felipe Paulino getting up in the bullpen once again for Colorado. Perhaps he'll be asked to close the game. Meanwhile, Bobby Parnell standing around in the bullpen for the Mets to see whether K-Rod needs assistance. And Helton swings and misses at the fastball, 1-1. Tulowitzki and Wigginton the base runners. One from K-Rod. And that's a strike. Good changeup by K-Rod. It's 1-2. And Helton down swinging for the second out. So 2 strikeouts in the inning for K-Rod.
Went right after Helton with the fastball, threw this ball right by him.
So 2 out. Ryan Spilborgh's coming up. By the way, with all the discussions we've had today about the Mets bullpen, and we talked about the fate of Pedro Feliciano, who's now out for the year with the Yankees, and Boof Bonser with the Tommy John surgery in the Mets farm system. Did you see who got the win for the Angels last night with 2 scoreless innings of relief in the 11th and the 12th?
Takahashi-san.
That's exactly right. First American League win. 6 up and 6 down for Takahashi. Glad to see him doing well.
He had a tough outing early on, but has righted the ship.
Bouncing ball down to third on the backhand. David Wright's got it and throws out Spilborgh's to end the inning. Rockies had a run on Wigginton's RBI hit. Now the Mets come up in the bottom of the ninth, trying to avoid a 4-game sweep. Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Dunkin' Donuts, America runs on Dunkin'. By Toyota. Toyota offers fuel efficiency you'll love, only better. By Geico. And by AT&T. Rethink possible. Last of the ninth, Felipe Polino tries to close it out for the Rockies.
Well, Felipe was traded this past season for Clinton Barmas, the infielder for the Rockies. Mostly a starter when he was in Houston, but mostly was going to stay in the bullpen here for the Rockies.
Josh Tolley pinch hitting for Mike Nickius, leading off in the last of the ninth. Daniel Murphy on deck to hit for the pitcher. And Tolley fouls it off, 0-2. Josh started the first game of the doubleheader, went 2 for 4. 3 hits and 12 at bats in this series. A series that started Monday night, 4 games. The Mets have had the lead in every game. The Rockies won the first 3 each by a single run, and they're up 9-4 in the last of the ninth in this game. And Tolley fouls it off. This game began shortly after noon, and it's ending shortly before twilight.
Oh, 97 miles per hour.
Polino pitched for the game last night. Worked the 7th inning, gave up a run on 2 hits. Trying to finish this one off for Jorge De La Rosa, who went the first 6 2/3. Wasn't great, gave up 4 runs, 5 hits, 4 walks, but good enough on this day, where the Rockies putting up a 6-run 6th, highlighted by the Tulowitzki and Herrera home runs. And Mr. Tulowitzki could put together a highlight package from this series and use that as a resume. Not that he needs one with a 10-year contract. Tolley strikes out on a ball in the dirt. And Iannetta makes the toss to complete the putout, 1 away.
Well, Tulowitzki already has lined up the player of the week. He's just trying to extend it so he can get player of the month also.
Could get the player of the month this week.
That's right.
Here's Daniel Murphy to pinch hit for the pitcher. Murphy started the first game, went 1 for 4, 3 for 13 in this series. Now, this is a series that the Mets will like to forget, but a series whose lessons they certainly need to learn. And that is that it's a team without a huge margin for error, without pitchers who are going to roll up huge strikeout numbers, and the defense has just got to be tighter. There's a strike, 0-2. Foul back by Murphy in that 6-run 6th inning for the Rockies. 2 fly ball singles that fell in front of corner outfielders. A double play not turned, opening the door for a huge inning. Otherwise, the Mets would have held the lead had they made the plays that should have been made. But it all got away. The things that will show up in nobody's wins above replacement.
Yes. There you go.
But the things that win baseball games. Line down the right field side, and a nice catch by the ball boy. That's the play of the day. Beautifully done. Thank you, Anthony. That's the biggest cheer this crowd has offered all day long.
Nice.
Anthony.
Good play, Anthony. He even saved some fans with that catch. Took one for the team.
Lost the helmet, saved the ball. Murphy down swinging for the 2nd out, as Iannetta makes the toss, 2 away. Well, Anthony may need a trip to the trainer's room, but he gets the game ball. So the Mets are down to their final out of this lost week. About to go 1-6 on their first homestand of the season. Reyes 1 for 4 in this game. Singled in 2 runs back in the 4th to extend his hitting streak to 12 games. Tomorrow the Mets head south to take on the Braves at Turner Field. Mets Braves coverage begins with Pepsi Max pregame live tomorrow at 6:30 only on SNY. 2-1 now to Reyes. In the air to left center, and this should do it. Dexter Fowler closing ground, and the ball game is over. And for the first time since 2004, the Mets are swept in a 4-game series at home, as the Rockies take all 4 games in this series, sweep the doubleheader today, and hand the Mets their 5th consecutive loss.
A double play that was not turned into the 6th led to back-to-back home runs from Gonzalez and Tulowitzki, which changed the game. And the starting pitching now for the Rockies have not lost the game, as both Reynolds and De La Rosa win today.
Well, a long day at the ballpark, signifying nothing for the Mets, but everything for Troy Tulowitzki. 10 for 16 with 4 home runs in this series, as the Rockies take game 2. Your New York Community Bank game summary. Chris Capuano tagged for 7 runs and 8 hits over 5 2/3 as he takes the loss. And that was game 1, with the Rockies hanging on for a 6-5 victory despite the Mets' furious rally in the bottom of the 9th when they left them loaded on a long fly ball to end it. And there's your totals in game number 2 as the Rockies win the nightcap 9-4 to sweep the 4-game series. First 4-game sweep by an opponent against the Mets in their home ballpark since the Marlins did it in August and September of 2004. Tomorrow night, game 1 of the series in Atlanta as DJ Carrasco pitches against Derek Lowe. 7 o'clock the coverage tomorrow night on SNY. 9-4 the final in the nightcap. Now for Ron Darling, Kevin Burkhardt, and our entire SNY crew. I'm Gary Cohen at Citi Field. Time for Lincoln Post Game Live. Let's join Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda.